Hey folks, welcome into this impromptu straight voltage live stream of the return of the NASA SpaceX CrewDragon space capsule coming back with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley from the International Space Station. Remember, just about a month ago, they launched on the Falcon 9 rocket into space in the first manned space launch from the United States in about a decade. So pretty exciting stuff. They've been up at the International Space Station now for a month, and they're on the way back. So in just a moment, I'm going to bring in the NASA stream, and I'll move myself up to this top here. And so thank you, anybody that's tuned in now. I see that Hank is here. Hank, welcome back. Good to see you. And I'm going to move myself up here, and I'm going to bring in the NASA stream. There you go. Maybe, yeah, right there's a good spot for it. Okay, let me bring in the NASA stream here. This is actually the SpaceX Mission Control Headquarters that you're going to see on the screen here. And there it is. That's the SpaceX headquarters. So anyway, there you go. See NASA, that's the NASA feed, actually, what you're watching there live. And we are approaching the time when the astronauts will be landing back safely down here on Earth. We've got our fingers crossed for the safe landing. That's supposed to be at 14:48, which is 30 minutes from now, hence the reason I've come back on. The time I had for it was originally at 15:48 or 16:48, so I expected to do it during my live stream. But here we go. So the adjusted correct time is now just a short time away. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chris Wide Africa and to the live stream. I hope that you're enjoying your Sunday. Those who were just present with me on the live stream with Gareth Mason, a rugby enthusiast and sports broadcaster from South Africa, thank you for rejoining me. Hey, there's Hank, and we've got General Inflatables, and there's Karen. Welcome aboard. How are you guys doing? Good to see you there. And Sloth Puppy says, thank you for this commentary. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, Sloth Puppy. Honestly, I think that in some respects, if someone who's a space enthusiast does the commentary, is actually in some respects more interesting than listening to the professional folks who do it from NASA and on that feed. So you're watching the NASA feed on Chris Wide Africa. I hope that you're enjoying this. And we're just going through what's about to happen here. We are less than 30 minutes away now, folks. The reason I waited until now is that the return is certain now. They've gone beyond the point of no return. So Bob and Doug must return to Earth now. They cannot return to orbit. So they will be coming back. It's a done deal. And so we just wait their approach and see what happens. Let's see. Hey, next stream says Ice. Hey, Ice, good to see you there. What happens to debris floating in and around space pollution? That's a good question, General Inflatables. It's a real problem. In fact, the U.S. Air Force is responsible, although that should have been turned over to Space Force by now. But the U.S. Air Force was responsible for tracking orbital debris around the planet and in space, and that's been one of their missions because the amount of debris up there is quite high. There's Stephen Clark just subscribed. Sorry you can't see the zombie, but I've got him off. I've got the feed on silent for the moment as he gives some commentary. But ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the actual landing and we shift to another camera angle, one that's not nearly as boring as watching a control room, they have a second camera, and they don't have it turned on the NASA feed. I don't know why. So I'll provide the entertainment and keep you engrossed for this time being as we prepare for this coming up. What we'll do is we'll go straight into the evening straight voltage live stream from this rather than drop off because unless it's not that exciting, then maybe I'll drop off and come back. But we'll play it by ear, folks. Citizen Guardian, welcome there. Thank you for. I think you sent me a Skype message, Citizen Guardian. Is that correct? And I responded. Flip says, hey, Chris, or hi, Chris, USA leads the way big time. In space, we are back in the game, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you so much, Donald Trump, for getting us back into the space game with manned space flight, not relying on the Russians to get us into orbit. So now we do that on our own, courtesy of public-private ventures between SpaceX and NASA, the National Aeronautical Space Administration. Amazing how far man has come. As was watching the Mars 2020 stream too. Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually did that stream. We followed the launch of the Perseverance mission to Mars. That's the latest rover that NASA is sending to the surface of Mars, and it went not alone, but accompanied by our first ever helicopter. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. NASA is putting a helicopter on the surface of Mars. Now, you might be asking a question, how are they going to do that? I thought they had no atmosphere. Well, Mars does have an atmosphere, but it's only 1% of Earth's atmosphere. And with the rapid rotation of the blades, the size of the blades, NASA has tested this helicopter on Earth in a controlled environment that replicates Mars, and they're confident that they can fly it on the surface of Mars. Pretty cool stuff. Can you imagine putting a helicopter on the surface of Mars? If, in fact, all goes well, on the 18th of February, 2021, the Perseverance rover will touch down on the surface of Mars, and its little buddy, the Ingenuity helicopter, will be able to fly around. Now, Ingenuity is not technically part of the mission. It's a proof of concept, And it's smart that they do that, because if it's an abject failure, then we didn't waste all this money just sending a helicopter to Mars. We're sending a rover to do scientific research and exploration. But I ask this question, folks: what happens when the Martians get angry, right? I mean, listen, we're just dropping rovers all over Mars, rolling around the surface, messing up their front lawn, their back lawn, driving in their yard. At one time, I expect we're going to see something from the Martians like, hey, get off my lawn! Get off my lawn! Waiting for the day the Martians react in that fashion. Mario's Crew Comp, good to see you here. Cat Boosh, 19 hours. What's 19 hours? Evening. Oh, there's Wesley. Hey, Wesley. Bradley Cook is here. Gentle Inflatables. Flip. Hank. Margareta Koch, good to see you there. Keith Alderson, I thought it was a bit strange after all their caution during the flight, they fired the retro objects before closing the nose cone. Perhaps it has to be in that order or the code is expendable. That's a good point, Keith. That is a good point. Boss Zebra says, evening, Colonel, and all tuned in. Looking forward to the splashdown of the Endeavour capsule, having an evening braai and following the stream. Oh, man, you guys having braais. Oh, so envious. It's too hot to have a braai here. Way too hot. I don't like standing in the sun cooking. I prefer just to cook the meat, not myself. Not a big fan of ultraviolet radiation. Yeah, General Flabel said, yes, all the helicopters. It's amazing. It is amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty fascinating stuff here. Can you think about this? Just think for a moment. We're going to put a helicopter on Mars. What's next? A bar, an ice bar, a pool, a jacuzzi. What are we putting on Mars next? Anyway, yes. The Curiosity and the Endeavour, just amazing little rovers we had. The rovers that could, they did far more than was expected of them. But NASA has a history of that. We've had good success in the past, getting much more out of missions than we expect. I mean, look at the New Horizons missions, ladies and gentlemen. What the amazing things we got out of New Horizons as it went out to Pluto and beyond. And we got to the next object that it passed by and got some imagery of that, the Ultima Thule, on its path out into the outer solar system. But New Horizons, quite an amazing thing. It's still kicking strong and traveling, 77,000 miles per hour or something like that through space. Just phenomenal. The New Horizons, quite an amazing mission that Mars. The Voyager missions are still out there, ladies and gentlemen. They've now exited the solar sphere. We've seen the Voyager missions now exit outside the confines of our solar system. They're actually out in outer space, genuine outer space, ladies and gentlemen. Hank says, good evening, all subs, members, spanners, and trolls. Well, the trolls have been missing the last few days, thank goodness, ever since we had the Zoom bomb, thankfully. They've been gone. How long did descent to Earth take, and how long did the launch take? How long did the launch to space take? Well, the launch to space, getting out of the atmosphere only takes a short period of time, but then actually traveling up to the International Space Station took them many hours. Forget the exact amount of time it took. I want to say it was 18 hours to get to the space station, because you've got to launch the curvature of the Earth. You've got to get into a position so you catch up with the space station, and you got to catch just the right angle. So it took a while to get there. Coming back, they started the descent yesterday, and they'll be back here within the hour. We're now down to, ladies and gentlemen, about 25 minutes left. Does that sound right? 23 minutes left before they're supposed to touch down at 14:48 Eastern Standard Time. Here, that would be 2028 in South Africa. Touchdown here on the planet once again. Bob and Doug, that's Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, U.S. astronauts, the first astronauts to launch into space from U.S. soil since 2011 as the U.S. returns to manned space flight. We saw this take place. And what you're seeing in the foreground there is the boring Mission Control Center for SpaceX, with these folks wearing their protective mask, and most of them, well, I'd say most of them. A lot of them maintain distance, but not all of them. Some of them getting close to each other, close enough to swap spit there. That's a little disconcerting. But that's the SpaceX control center that you're seeing on the screen there. And rather boring. Rather than switching to the second camera, they're stuck on this camera. This is the NASA feed. What we'll do is we'll check in with that as we get close to the splashdown or the landing of these folks. Did they bring the floating dinosaur back? Mars is completely populated by robots and rovers everywhere. Yeah, Bosch Zebra, which actually made that movie with Val Kilmer actually plausible, in which, I think it was Val Kilmer, in which they land on Mars and then they're stuck there and they all die except for him, and he can only get out. He needs to get into space, and he finds an old Russian rover that was there, and he takes the Russian rover and he gets it working, and he uses it to launch himself into space, and then grab him out of space. Carrie drags him out of space, and he survives. But yeah, there's a lot of junk on Mars, ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of mankind. Paul, hello from Stellenbosch. Well, welcome, Paul. That's funny you should mention Stellenbosch. Ladies and gentlemen, I got good news. My book project with the University of Stellenbosch is in the final throes. All approvals have been gotten for copyrights to tables and images and things like that, and it is going to the publisher, and we're holding our fingers crossed that my book, in which I provide the key chapter on the history and the results of U.S. Africa Command, should be coming out in August at some point from Stellenbosch University. So looking forward to that. Once it's out, I'll have big fanfare. We'll crack open a bottle of wine or a Weizen or something like that and celebrate it, and I'll share it with everybody on the channel. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been a 2-year journey, although my effort into it really took probably about 4 or 5 months of my time to research and write my portion and then edit the comments that came back and get it going. So looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. Let's see what else. The Red Planet. Indeed, Mars, the Red Planet. Kat Bush says, my wife named our adopted budgie Robert Douglas. RD is so cool. Paul says, thanks. General Flavels, congrats. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, General Flavels. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, it's 2 years. I have to update it title because when I wrote the chapter, I was Colonel Wyatt. Now, in order for the interest of honesty, it has to be Colonel Retired Wyatt. So the thing about that is somebody looked and goes, oh, he's probably some crusty old dude that retired from the Army 20 years ago. No, I'm some crusty young dude that just retired from the Army 6 months ago. So, but it took 2 years to get the thing in publication. So it's when you have a collaborative project with multiple chapters from people around the world, this is the sort of thing that happens. Hey, folks, 39 have tuned in for this. Thank you so much so far for tuning in. I didn't expect that because I mentioned I was going to cover this, but I thought it was later. And then I just did an impromptu stream when we got to 30 minutes out. So I thought that would be useful. What you're watching on the screen in front of you below me is the SpaceX Mission Control Center. And yes, I know it's quite boring looking at people wearing protective mask or face mask, sitting there watching screens in front of them. Not very entertaining, but they should be switching to other cameras. We'll watch the arrival of Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley, from the International Space Station, coming back on the CrewDragon capsule provided by SpaceX, a company founded by pioneering space enthusiast Elon Musk, born in South Africa, but making his money in the greatest land there is here in the United States with all the opportunity. Oh, Hank says, please remember to like the stream. Yeah, that'd be great, guys. Please do that. Hank says that book will be for student tutorials. I believe it's not, I'm not sure that's going to be released as a popular press book, but more as an academic. But I don't know that's the case in South Africa. Sometimes they do both. So once we get to the point where it's released, I'll let you guys know. And if it's a popular available, say an exclusive or CNA, assuming it's not in bankruptcy, I'll let you guys know. Of course, famously, CNA, Consolidated News Agents, has come in and out of bankruptcy several times in the last 20 years, or a few times. And it is part of the EdCon group, and EdCom is in receivership. It's in business rescue, and we're likely to see things like Jet survive and Edgar's survive. But what happens with CNA is an open question. I think CNA will survive because really you have basically 3 major book sellers in South Africa. You have exclusive books, you have CNA, and you also have, of course, CUM, which is an Afrikaans bookseller, but that doesn't really do English books. So really, essentially, you have 2 major booksellers across the country that are countrywide booksellers, CNA and exclusive, which is the same case in Botswana and Namibia, where you have the same marketplace, CNA and exclusive books. I don't know what they've settled on for the title yet, the Right Reverend Rawhide. It's kind of, they're holding that back. The problem with these things, folks, is, and I don't even know the title of my chapter because they may change it. I know what my manuscript says. I know what I propose for a title, but we'll see. I think my title will probably call the instantiation or the evolution or the creation of U.S. Africa Command, something like that. But anyway, so we'll see. I will. Don't worry. I will let you guys know when we get to that close. Hopefully it'll be soon, but it's been a long journey and I'm looking forward to it and I can't wait to see it. It'd be really cool if they if it wasn't for COVID, I wonder if they were going to do a book launch and bring some of the authors there, because since they recruited me to write what they said the lead-in chapter. Now there'll be an introductory chapter, but then mine sets the stage for the rest of the book. And so that's kind of a high honor. So it was really cool. It would have been cool if they had asked me to come over for the book launch. That would have been awesome. And stay in Stellenbosch, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. But with COVID-19, that's not going to happen, I don't think. So we'll see what happens, folks. These guys at computers should at least have a bottle of wine in front of them. Remember wine coolers? Wine coolers were huge back in the day, ladies and gentlemen. 58 folks tuned in. Thank you so much for this. We're 15 minutes approximately into a impromptu live stream. And we're covering the NASA SpaceX CrewDragon capsule return to Earth with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. And there's a super chat from Dietrich Bucher for 140 Rand. Says, good evening, sir. Well, thank you so much for the Dietrich. The zombie is going to be hidden by my picture. Maybe I can adjust that before he gets up on the screen. Here we go. No, that's not it. There we go. There's a super chat. Let me move me down here. All right, I'll do that in case people want a super chat. How's that? Put myself back down here in the bottom. Okay. Yeah, so you guys can still see me. That's fine. Thank you, Dietrich, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Good evening to you, and thank you for that super chat and that kind, generous donation to help the channel. Appreciate it. And Kapani Sony says, hi, this is awesome. Thanks, Chris. Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Listen, guys, if you know anything about me, you know I'm a massive, massive space fan. I'm a huge fan of actual space stuff as well as science fiction. Massive science fiction fan. Always have been since I was a kid, and as an adult would love to have been an astronomer, but as it turns out, you need to have a lot of math skills. You need to have mad math skills to be an astronomer, and I don't have mad math skills. So, folks, thanks for tuning in to this live stream. Hey, Lazon, good to see you there. Clinton Thomas, I've been following this from the beginning. It's fantastic. Clinton, did you catch the launch here on my channel? If you want, you can go back and catch that stream later on when we saw them launched into space. I keep telling people famously, if you want to see me bawl like a 12-year-old schoolgirl, that's the time to do it. Go back and watch that stream because I was in tears watching the launch when it happened. It was really, really cool. So, yeah, I was so proud of my nation, so proud of the entrepreneurs like Elon Musk who were able to come to this country and be part of America and make these things happen. Really exciting stuff. So let's see what else we got here. Anne-Marie Forster just checked in. Can't wait. Same way, guys. We are now 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to say T-minus because it's not a launch, but a landing. 15 minutes now from the touchdown. I do wish they would switch around to some other camera angles here. NASA's starting to irritate me. I don't really care about seeing that room. I'm sure you don't want to see it. But we're now 15 minutes away from when they're scheduled to land here back on terra firma on the planet Earth. There you go, folks. I love that movie. What was it? The one where Arnold Schwarzenegger was in, and he played the Secret Service agent, the Witness Protection Program, and he has to get out of the plane, and he's in a parachute, and it won't open. And he crashes down his car in a junkyard, and he gets out, and he says, "Where is this?" And little black girl says, "Earth." Well, for Bob and Doug, they'll soon be back on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, we passed the point of no return. Both astronauts are unable to return to orbit now. At this point, they are committed to a landing here on Earth. Absolutely. Looks like we're missing some frames here. I hope that the stream is coming through for everybody. There's what's Hank got to say. It was a great launch on this channel. Thank you, Hank. I really appreciate it. Variable Vision says, what are your favorite science fiction films? There's so many that I like. Aliens is right up there near the top. I truly love that. I actually love Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers was awesome. Would you like to know more? Absolutely love Starship Troopers. Some of the Star Trek movies I like. I'm okay with Star Wars. Space 2001 is pretty cool, but a lot of great science fiction and space movies out there that I really like, so it's hard to narrow down on my favorite one. Lorenzo Guillermi says, Chris, watch the launch of your channel now, back for the landing. Great moment in history. It is. It's really cool, guys. Really awesome stuff. I mean, this is honestly, in some respects, we've done this before. We've had shuttles return. We've had astronauts return since the 1950s, 1960s. But this is a different era. We're a different era of public-private partnership, and this is the return of the astronauts who launched into space for the first time from U.S. soil since the end of the shuttle program. The space shuttle program famously served the United States for decades. Of course, we had two catastrophes that happened with the Challenger and the other one that the Endeavor, I think it was, that blew up on reentry, but the Challenger blew up on launch. Really sad stuff. I still, to this day, folks, remember what I was doing the day that the Challenger, looks like a little bit of a delay here in my camera. Let me go ahead and stop my camera and restart it. Give me a moment here. Give me a second here, folks. I'll close my camera and come right back. All right, let's see if that's any better. Okay, folks, let me see if I'm back in the stream. Okay, there I am. That looks a little bit better. Sorry about that. I was seeing a delay here on my end, and we don't need that. Folks, we're now down to 36:46. We're down to 56. 46. We're down to 12 minutes. There you go. Wow. Had to do the math very, very quickly. 12 minutes until they're supposed to return, and NASA is still locked in on the SpaceX Control Center. That's a little bit disturbing. What's that all about? 60 folks now tuned in. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Wasn't expecting to see many folks tune in at all for this with everything going on a Sunday. Hey, the Sky Greg. Tony Nagy. Yay. Tony, there's my Canadian-Hungarian pal, South African pal. Welcome, Tony. I don't see you much. I start to wonder if I scared you off. Welcome back, Tony. Yeah, Starship Troopers Vision, I actually loved it. There were sequels for it. Some of them were direct to video, but the first one was the best, with Doogie Howser and all those guys, and Denise Richardson, and just a really, really, really great one. Casper Van Dien. Really love that first one. Awesome. Ender's Game, also good watch, makes you think. Okay, thanks, Tony. Covering the video camera on your phone disables it. Covering the video camera on your phone disables it. Huh? Not so sure what that means. Hopefully it's not going to be CGI. Yeah, we did have a little bit of that, John Doe, with the CGI for following along with the launch when the Perseverance mission launched a couple days ago, which I also covered on this channel. Thank you all for tuning in for that. We did get to the animation. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is we don't have media stations set up in outer space or within the solar system to film ships as they come by. We'll get to that point someday. We'll have relay stations out there, but of course, remember that they would have to be rotational, and so they won't stay in the same spot all the time, because if they just sat in one spot, we rotate around the sun, as do all the other objects in the solar system, except for maybe comets that come straight in and asteroids that come straight in. So it would not work very well. So you got to think about the math on that one. Anyway, folks, Blade Runner. I enjoyed Blade Runner, the original with Harrison Ford. That was good stuff. The repeat of Blade Runner didn't quite do it for me, folks. It was okay, but I don't know. There were some problems with it. Just didn't really buy into it. But the original Blade Runner did rock. It was awesome. Logan's Run. Oh, love Logan's Run. Fantastic movie from that time frame. We are down to 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes to re-entry, or to landing, I should say, for the SpaceX CrewDragon capsule with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley coming back here shortly. So, Henkes, what was the mission for the space outing? Well, there was some science that was conducted, as is per usual, in the International Space Station, but the real reason for this was to proof of concept in many respects, to prove that we could launch humans safely back into space from U.S. soil in a collaboration with a public-private partnership. That was really, they didn't advertise it, but honestly, that's really what it was about. That was a key part of what was going on. So that's why we did it. If you tape the camera lens, the phone won't turn on screen. Needs light. Huh? Hey, Stuart Campbell, welcome. More recently, Interstellar and Prometheus. Interstellar was good, but kind of left me a little lacking. I wanted something from it. 68 folks now tuning in for this. Folks, we are now just 9 minutes away. Is that right? Yeah, 9 minutes away from the return. I wish NASA would get off of this Mission Control Center. Come on, guys. Really disappointing. This is the NASA feed that we're watching here. It looks like we're only going to get a few minutes of this. Donna Tango 63 says, hi, all listening and watching with Hub on bigger screen. Have you seen the Mandalorian? I have not seen Mandalorian, but back to the comment a moment ago about the other ones, Interstellar. Prometheus. I liked Prometheus. Yeah, absolutely. That was good. I really enjoyed Prometheus. Yeah, science fiction movies can be really awesome. Pretty cool stuff, folks. Also a big fan of science fiction series. I did like Babylon 5. That was a pretty good series. I didn't get into it initially, but later got into it. Space 1999. Right, Reverend Rawhide. I had the entire series on DVD. I was looking at it last night. I actually considered, when I was in the basement, bringing it up and watching an episode or two last night. I think Martin Landau was in that program. Hey, Erica. Erica, are you back from Blood River? Erica was on a trip, and it was a fantastic trip, it appears, and sent some lovely photographs in the members group on WhatsApp to share with everybody. So thanks for that, Erica. And there's Tunes. Exciting stream. Well, thanks, guys. Books was great. I am the first ever space pirate. Bradley Cook. Yeah, so welcome, folks. Welcome. You're watching a live stream of the NASA SpaceX CrewDragon capsule return from the International Space Station, carrying astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, who were the first astronauts to launch into space from U.S. soil in nearly a decade when they went up there about a month ago on the Falcon 9 rocket to the International Space Station. So they've come back now after a month of science on the space station. And Bob and Doug, and no, we're not talking for folks in the United States, Second City TV from Canada, Bob and Doug McKenzie, the Great White North, takeoff, Hoser. No, it's Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley, astronauts returning to Earth. They're supposed to touch down here in 7 minutes. And the anticipation here is really starting to annoy me with NASA focused on this Mission Control Center. I'm going to go ahead at 5 minutes out, and what I'm going to do at 5 minutes out is I'm going to turn the volume on, so you guys can listen to the last 5 minutes. So we're going to do that. Now I'm going to go quiet unless maybe there's been some sort of problem. But as I said, they are committed. About 35 minutes ago, there was a point of no return when they could not return to orbit. They were forced to land. So they will be landing in one fashion or another. 72 folks now tuning in. We are just 6 minutes away, folks. And I'm going to switch, as I said, over to listening to this myself. And I'll put my microphone on silent so that we can all enjoy this this landing for Bob and Doug. Should be interesting. And if there's anything necessary, I'll jump in and comment while we're going. But the plan is just to listen to NASA as we go forward here. Let's see. We're very close here. We're now down to just 6 minutes. I said when we get to 5 minutes, I'll switch over. All right. Willem Becca, good to see you. How's it going? Going quite well. Had a lovely stream with Gareth Mason, rugby enthusiast from South Africa earlier. That was fantastic. So really enjoyed that. Tony says it's going to be a great landing. I hope so. Really looking forward to it. All right, folks, we are now down to still at 6 minutes. Is my clock not turning? Oh, there's. We got 20 seconds before we get to 5 minutes. It's a long minute. Apparently, the decoupling took place over Joburg. Well, I didn't know it was over Joburg. That's interesting, no, Keith. Thank you for sharing that bit of info. It's pretty awesome. All right, folks, we are now down to just 5 minutes. I'm going to switch over to just the NASA feed now. You'll hear that.
It is approaching the landing zone off the coast of Florida near Pensacola, and there we have our first shot.
There it is. The first view from the WB-57 airplane. It is dipping in and out a little bit. This is going to be an infrared camera showing us Dragon re-entering. We have that comm back with Bob and Doug. You heard 8 GPS is converging. Dragon has 3 GPS units that it uses actually in the parachute deployment process as it helps, along with the pressure sensors, really give a solid altitude to the flight computers on when these are supposed to deploy. We're standing by for the drogue chute deployments. We should be just under 5 minutes away from splashdown.
Passing 15 kilometers, brace for drogue window.
Copy, we're braced.
Just about 14 kilometers in altitude, 8.4 miles, continuing to descend.
There on your screen, we have a shot of the capsule as it is preparing to deploy those initial parachutes, the drogue parachutes. Again, these parachutes help slow the vehicle down even further and help stabilize in preparation for main chute deployment.
Africa. This is the return of the NASA SpaceX CrewDragon capsule with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley returning Earth now less than 5 minutes to splash down.
Right about now, the capsule is going about 400 miles per hour.
And you see the aircraft as the cameras as it approaches Earth. I'm going to go ahead and back out.
Quickly.
Welcome to everybody who's just tuning in. There's the capsule on its descent to Earth. Less than 5 minutes, preparing to deploy initial
and standing by for drogue
Please
deploys.
enjoy the landing, ladies and gentlemen.
Visual, 2 drogues out.
There on your screen, we have visual confirmation of those 2 drogue deployments.
Copy, 2 drogue.
All right, so 2 of 2, the drogues now out. They're going to do their slowing and stabilizing of the Dragon spacecraft. They should be detaching in just a few moments, and then we'll see 4 parachutes, the main parachutes deployed. Dragon under drogues.
Initial chutes deployed. Now about 4 minutes out
nominal.
from splashdown, ladies and gentlemen. As the capsule approaches, it was at 400 miles per hour before deploying those chutes.
The expected descent rate, the expected velocity out of the drogues nominal. We're right at around 150 miles an hour and already dropping. You can see the drogues now detach.
And there we have confirmation of deployment of the 4 main parachutes.
We are visual on 4 chutes out.
We are visual. 4 main parachutes deployed.
Copy, 4 main.
So at this point, the main parachutes
All
have
conditions
deployed.
nominal. The
They
craft is
are
now down to 150
inflating,
miles
as you
per
can
hour
see
with the
there
main
on your
chutes
screen,
deployed.
continuing to slow Dragon down
As
significantly.
it descends on to the surface
We
of
are
the planet.
anticipating splashdown in just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
And we've already slowed the vehicle down to about 16 miles an hour. It's already less than a kilometer in altitude.
You can hear in the background there the control center clapping for the successful deployment of the 4 main chutes as the CrewDragon capsule descends down to the Earth. Ladies and gentlemen.
Main chute descent rate nominal, passing through 700 meters.
We're down to about 1 minute before splashdown, folks. Hang on.
So at this point, Dragon has saved all propulsion systems on
600
board.
meters.
600 meters.
And we're 600 meters above the Gulf of Mexico.
The capsule's now down to less than 16
Should
miles
be
per hour.
approximately
just 1
a minute
kilometer
30 from splashdown.
Nearly on the ground, folks.
Mission control team here in Hawthorne has reported the precise landing coordinates to the recovery team. They are standing by, ready to go get our space dads.
700 meters.
100 meters.
.600 meters, almost there, folks.
We just passed about 300 meters. 1 minute till splashdown.
200 meters. We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown.
Gentle descent now, ladies and gentlemen, just a few hundred meters above
So there
the
we heard Bob
surface
and Doug
of
reporting
the
that they
Gulf
are
of
bracing
Mexico.
for a
About to
splashdown.
hit splashdown here in this minute itself, ladies and gentlemen.
We should be able to see the Gulf of Mexico here in the shot just momentarily, as
Down
we're
to
now just
300
about
meters,
20
folks.
meters off the ocean.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the
As you
splashdown
can
of
see
the
on your
CrewDragon
screen, we
capital
have visual
from
confirmation
NASA
for
SpaceX.
splashdown.
Welcome back, Bob and Doug. Welcome back.
SpaceX copies and concurs. We see splashdown and mains cut.
Dragon Endeavour has returned home. NASA astronauts Bob and
Endeavour,
Doug.
on behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
Welcome back to astronauts Bob Bacon and Doug Hurley.
It's truly our honor and privilege to fly in flights of the CrewDragon and Endeavour. Congratulations, everybody at SpaceX. All good, and we're into section of 4.800.
Thanks for those words, Doug, and we copy that you are into 4.800.
So great news.
Now, I will
all
say that
around
Bob
there.
and Doug
Our
aren't getting
space dads
nearly
are
the
back
number
on
of frequent
Earth
flyer
after a
miles that I'm getting,
19-hour
and
return
Anne-Marie is
journey
getting
from space.
flying with
Dragon Endeavour has
the mission
played
to Mars.
splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico, just off the coast of Pensacola, Florida. And on your screen there, you can see our
All right,
two
folks,
fast
the
boats,
danger period's
and
not
they
over
are
yet. We have to
indeed
safely
fast.
get Bob and Doug
Racing
out of
out
the
to
capsule.
greet
So let's
Dragon
hang tight. We're going to
Endeavour
listen to
as,
this
it sits there.
a bit longer.
The
There you go. There's
first-
inside view of the capsule.
There
Where
we
was
can
that
see a
all
view
along?
inside the capsule. Bob and Doug looking good. Although the communication was a little choppy, we did hear.
SpaceX Endeavour in 3.1, we show ourselves in stable 1.
And SpaceX copies for vehicle assessment, step 3.1, stable 1. Good news.
Stable 1, essentially. They're upright in the water. Stable 2, also another potential where it could be on its side or even upside down, but Dragon does have a water ballast system to keep it upright where it's able to essentially pump seawater into bladders in the service section of the capsule. But they're upright. We already see the fast boats approaching. They touched down, came right on time at 11:48 a.m. Pacific. 1848 UTC. Bob and Doug now in the water, and the recovery ops, they've already begun. We already see the fast boats starting to move in. We're still maintaining that good communication back with Bob and Doug and the team here in Hawthorne. Pretty soon we should be getting the go for them to move in, begin their hypergol sniffs, and begin wrangling up those parachutes. But we can see Bob and Doug inside the
How
capsule.
cool is that control
back on
panel,
planet
folks?
Earth.
Take a look at that. Isn't that pretty awesome?
Yeah, those fast
That's
boats will
pretty
be moving
amazing
in to do a
stuff. All
couple of
touch
things.
control.
They'll be
It's
performing
like
what's
being
known
a
as a
gamer,
sniffer
except
test.
the gamers
That's
were in
essentially to
space. Now
ensure
they
that
sit
the air
bobbing up and
around
down
the
in the Gulf
vehicle
or the
doesn't
Gulf.
have any
Yeah,
toxic
Gulf of
fumes from
Mexico.
the hypergolic propellants on board. So once we get the all clear from there, the water recovery lead will give the go for approach. And that's when the first fast boat will actually
Ronaldo,
approach
hey,
the
good to see
capsule.
you tune in, man.
Hopefully
Sorry
give
to
a
step
little
on your stream,
wave to
but
Bob and
this
Doug
was-
through
this
the
was
window.
important. Yeah, a little emotional,
one of
I
the
was.
crew members
But
will,
I was a lot more
one of the team
emotional
members will
when
actually
we had
climb on
the
top
launch.
of CrewDragon and
Blubber like a
begin
little girl.
to
So proud of
begin to
what we've all
place the
accomplished.
rigging equipment necessary to hoist Dragon out of the water.
Oh, still getting a view from the WB. The airplane flying overhead, it gave us those great views of really our first views of Bob and Doug re-entering the Earth's atmosphere from up above. You can see the 4 parachutes in the water. We heard those were cut automatically as expected by Dragon. So for now, the crew just standing by. Again, they're going to stay in their suits, in their seats. We're waiting for all these initial checks.
Yeah, folks, I was a bit emotional. I'll admit that. Nothing wrong with being emotional when you take pride in the accomplishments of mankind, of your own country. Quite impressive here, particularly in an age when people are distorting the reality about this country's path and its history and its current contemporary situation. Yeah, pretty awesome. We still got a little bit more time here before they successfully extract Bob and Doug from the capsule. And this is still exciting, folks, so stay tuned. Hang in there. Enjoy this. It's pretty cool.
As you get them, we would appreciate it.
You bet. Absolutely, Doug. Wilco.
So what just happened there, you heard comms reconfiguration. That's essentially looping Bob and Doug's communication into the into the recovery team so that they can hear feedback from Bob and Doug directly as well. Now, we talked a little bit about
SpaceX Endeavor. You can let Ben and James know we're doing pretty good so far.
Okay, we'll let the flight docs know that you're feeling good so far. Thanks for that update.
really good news there to hear that they're feeling good, and they can let the flight surgeons know that all is well inside Dragon Endeavor.
All right, and it sounds like we do have one of our folks that's on location there with the recovery forces, NASA's Brandy Dean. She's joining us by satellite phone. Brandy, if you can hear me, I mean, what is it like right there in the water? What was it like to watch Dragon rear, watch them splash down?
For the test objective, so stand by at the console once we get it up and operating.
So I think I have my microphone shut off for that. But Bosch Deborah was saying they believe it's the first manned splashdown since the Apollo missions. The shuttle STS missions landed on land as well as the Russian Soyuz capsules. Actually, Bosch Deborah, I think you're absolutely correct. I don't think any of us really thought about that. That's, I think, an accurate statement that we've not had a manned splashdown recovery like this in decades. The SpaceX proof of concept flights for their booster rockets were not manned, of course. They landed at sea on platforms. But I do believe this may be the first splashdown we've had in almost my entire lifetime, folks. Pretty amazing. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Really enjoy your presence here. Thank you for your support for the channel and also for watching this historic event with me. We've still got a little bit of time before Bob and Doug are successfully extracted from the capsule, but hang in there. Some interesting stuff still coming up.
There in the center of your screen, Dragon capsule, waiting for the fast boats to approach and begin the rigging process. And there on the left-hand side of your screen, we can see that second fast boat come into view.
Dragon SpaceX, we are go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel aside.
A muted loudspeaker said that Marlena is a zombie. Indeed, she is. When you become a subscriber in Chris Wide Africa, if you do it during a live stream, ladies and gentlemen, you become a zombie. You get to see the zombie climbing the Mahalisberg up there. And if you become a member, you also get it once again. The subscribers mid-range on the Mahalisberg. Membership takes you to climb the top. Oh, here we go. The recovery boat is next to the capsule now, folks. I'm going to back out and we're going to listen to that.
Looking down, you can see the parachutes in the water, and the second boat start to gather them up. We'll try one more time real quick. We have NASA's Brandy Dean out with the recovery forces. Brandy, if you can hear me, what was it like to watch this Dragon come down under parachutes?
Oh, it was amazing. I wish everybody could have had my view. It was such a beautiful sight. It was a gorgeous day. The water is calm, really the best weather we could have asked for. And we heard the sonic booms as it made its way back there, and we were able to find it early on as the parachutes were deploying. So it was very exciting for everybody who was gathered here.
That's incredible. We actually had some questions from people if you'd be able to hear the sonic boom, and we weren't sure. So I'm really glad you just answered that for us. I mean, we talked so much about the weather. You said it looks great. What was it like on the ride out there? Has it just been kind of clear skies and clear seas the whole way?
I'm not sure if you can hear me right now, but I think you're asking about the weather, whether it was clear skies. There are just a kind of a circle of clouds along the horizon, very low, but we were able to see the parachute far above the clouds and then follow it all the way until it splashed down.
Doc Brecker said that he's very jealous of the pride I can show for my country's achievements and how reflecting your true patriotism, inspiring. I miss that. No, absolutely. Folks should be able to be proud of their country and be inspired by a country's achievements and the things that people do in their country. This country has fortunately had a long history of many things to be proud of, many great Americans who've contributed to our society. But the space exploration program, I think, is one of our proudest achievements, and it's nice to see astronauts back in space, having been launched from our own soil and in a program that we're running rather than relying on the Russians. So thank you for those comments, Doc Brecker. I agree.
All right, copy that. Well, we're going to keep watching from here. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for being out there with everybody and getting us these great views. It's really incredible. Thanks, Brandy. We hope to get you back in port soon, and we'll talk to you back in Houston.
So there on your screen, camera view change. That is a view coming to us from Go Navigator, the recovery vessel. The two fast boats are out there getting ready to install the rigging equipment required to hoist Dragon out of the water. The other fast boat is actually collecting the parachutes from the water. We definitely want to bring those back on board with us. But shortly here, we should actually see one of the team members crawl up onto the side of the capsule in order to install the rigging, like I mentioned. That particular team member is highly experienced and highly trained. As you can imagine, climbing on top of an oddly shaped thing in the ocean could be a little tricky. So this person has undergone hours and hours of training and certification in order to perform this very important task. There on the right-hand side of your screen, we see the second fast boat approaching. Of course, both of these boats needed to wait for their cue from the water recovery lead in order to approach Dragon after splashdown. Again, that was just to make sure that there weren't any toxic vapors in the air. And now that they got the all clear, we do see them beginning to work on and around the Dragon capsule. So even though the camera's a little shaky, that water looks super, super duper smooth, almost like glass, which is certainly ideal for a water recovery like today.
Yeah, got to remember that this is a view from the main recovery vessel, which was still a few miles away from the splashdown
Dragon
point.
SpaceX, we have hypercrawl sweeps and unfired ordnance checks nominal. Rigger is on board the vehicle. About 5 minutes until capsule lift.
After that, yeah, we see them walking outside, and good news.
All right, confirmation there that all of those hypergolic vapor tests came out positive, or rather negative, which is a positive thing. So the team was able to approach, and now the crew member that is installing the rigging is on top of the capsule. It's difficult to see there because the slower vessel, the primary recovery ship, is a little further away. But as we heard, it's just a mere 2.5 minutes until they will be hoisted out of the water. I'm sorry, 25 minutes, not 2.5. I misheard that.
Yeah, they're fast, but they're not that fast. We also have been hearing that...
Muted loudspeakers asking a question about whether the capsule will be hot or cold. There are hazards with the capsule. It would have been hot on entry, but after the chutes open, would have began cooling down because the air against the capsule, lowering the temperature. By the time, of course, it splashed down, the temperature would have dropped dramatically, safe to approach. But as you heard in the stream, there's also concern about toxic vapors, and it takes a while to make sure that's dissipated. One of the reasons why the boats did not immediately go to the capsule, have to give it a short period of time so that it's safe for entry. And we see that on the fast boats near it. They've already collected the parachutes, which are important to recover. Excuse me. So that's what's happened here. All right, folks, let's behave well in the chat, please, and enjoy the stream as I add some commentary periodically. Still waiting for the safe extraction of astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley from the CrewDragon capsule, which is here bobbing in the Gulf of Mexico after a successful splashdown from the International Space Station, the return trip for the NASA astronauts.
So definitely want to avoid that. So that's one of the few buttons that are hardwired into the cabin for the crew.
And again, right now we're expecting about 20 minutes for the main recovery vessel, the Go Navigator, to reach Dragon. By that point, all the rigging will be affixed, and then they'll be able to use the A-frame hydraulic lift on the back of the vessel to begin to pull Dragon up out of the water. Bob and Doug did report they're seeing the guys climbing around outside their window on the capsule, getting that rigging affixed. Still doing good from all of their reports. And we're just going to see the vessel continue to close in. It's a little over 1.3 nautical miles still away, but you can see things starting to sharpen up in our view as it does draw in closer.
One thing I didn't get to mention as the sequence events was happening, everything was going so quickly, just before the drogue deployment, the seats automatically rotated to about 26 degrees. And so if you think back to when we saw Bob and Doug while they were still on orbit and during the deorbit burn and all their departure burns, they were actually laying closer to on their backs at the 40-degree position, where essentially they were looking up at the top of Dragon capsule, like their stomachs were facing the top nose cone there. At this point, the seats would have rotated, so they're in a little bit more of an upright position.
Well, there's a super chat from Bosch Zebra. Thank you so much for that, Bosch Zebra. Ad astra per aspera. To the stars through adversity. Gotta love it, gotta love it. Also really enjoy, folks, getting closer camera angles now as we can see the capsule, not just a fuzzy object in the distance. How cool is it for those dudes tooling around out there in those fast boats, having a lot of fun doing their mission, but also tooling around on a historic moment out there in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're getting closer to the extraction of Bob and Doug. So hang in there, folks. Still something worth watching here.
So at this point, we're at about 22 minutes until Dragon will be lifted onto the recovery vessel. Bob and Doug are still strapped into their seats, kind of like an airplane. You know, they say, do not unbuckle your seatbelt until the captain determines that it's safe to do so. They will remain in their seats throughout the entire recovery process, essentially until it's...
So Ronaldo says, Chris White sounds like a sports commentator. Would pay to listen to him. Well, yeah, a little bit of experience doing that, Ronaldo. It's been a while, but many, many years ago, did sports broadcasts for baseball. And baseball is not nearly as exciting, say, as an action-packed game like football or rugby. But still, it is definitely a skill. So thank you for that compliment. All right, folks, we're getting closer. This is really cool. I don't know about the rest of you. I had some goosebumps earlier. I know some of you pointed out that I was a little emotional, and I was. But, yeah, okay, I'm kind of angry about the camera angle there now, folks. Get the cameraman to wake up. All I see is the tip of the cone. There we go. There you go. Much better. All right, folks, getting much closer now. We should be close to an extraction, a safe extraction of these two astronauts from the International Space Station. Really, really cool. Nigel says the interior of the capsule is something out of this world. I agree, Nigel. It's something out of a science fiction movie. It's really well done, like Buck Rogers in the 21st century or something like that.
Closer to Dragon's position there off the coast of Pensacola, Florida. We're able to see the capsule in a little bit more detail. It is certainly no longer a bright shade of white. Like we said, those external temperatures were reaching up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So the thermal protection systems enable Dragon to return while keeping the internal temperature rather temperate.
And you are seeing a few more boats than expected.
Well, looky there. Ronaldo Jos is given a super chat of 140 Rand. Well, thank you. Bye donkey, Ronaldo. Thank you. Says, great job, Chris. It's so amazing to see you get so emotional and proud of your country. As a South African, I wish I could relate. Well, I too wish you could relate, Ronaldo, because it's very depressing to see South Africans not as patriotic as they once were. And I say once were, I'm not just talking about during the MP era. I'm also talking about 26 years ago, even 20 years ago, how proud people were of South Africa. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ronaldo. Really do appreciate it. There's a salute for you. And there was a comment before that. Let me see if I can find that. Muted loudspeaker was saying, what did I make of Fauci's first pitch? I think you're referring to Dr. Fauci throwing out a pitch at a baseball game, probably the Washington Nationals. I'm not watching baseball. I'm not watching it. They have done virtue signaling to a degree that I'm unwilling to support, and so I'll not be watching baseball this year. That's too bad for them, and they're ruining a sport. All right, we're very close to extraction. Notice as the boat gets up there close, going to be taking them out shortly. Thank you for the super chat, Ronaldo. Really appreciate it.
So we are being advised that the recovery team is radioing out to the vessels in the water near CrewDragon to vacate the area so that we're able to extract Bob and Doug safely. Also for the safety of those folks in the area as well, not just Bob and Doug.
Yeah, this is obviously a dynamic operation. One of the first things we do is make sure there aren't essentially poisonous fumes around the capsule, so something like this just really can endanger the whole thing, endanger the crew members and endanger themselves. So the SpaceX team is moving in to try and get them away so they can safely recover the Dragon capsule and get Bob and Doug on deck and safely inside their medical quarters. So we can see them. They're getting a lot closer. We expect about 10 minutes or so until they should be in position. All the rigging has been affixed on the Dragon capsule. And once they arrive, they'll be able to use that hydraulic lift to get Dragon up.
Variable vision, no, it's not a head poking out. What you can't see is there's another boat on the other side, and those are the recovery guys. That was the guy in the back of the boat. So no, it's not a head poking out yet. Still trying to make sure that it's safe, and hopefully we'll be having them out shortly. But we're very close to extraction.
As it awaits its recovery, or as it awaits to be hoisted out of the Gulf of Mexico. Again, we landed just
All right, folks, so if you're looking for a timeline on how much you're going to have to hang around if you want to see them safely extract, they just announced it's about 10 minutes from extraction as they get the correct equipment in place to get these guys out. So it's not a simple process, as you can see. And again, we haven't done this for decades. The Apollo program is the last time I can recall. It was Bosch Zebra mentioned earlier. And Penny Williams has just given a super chat. With people like us, we will be proud again. We can't give up now, Ronaldo. Oh, shoot. Ronaldo hugs. Okay. Cool beans. That Penny gave that's a shout out to Ronaldo, saying that folks, I think her sentiment is folks who care about the welfare of all South Africans is what's needed to change the country. I think that's her sentiment. Hope I didn't misspeak on your super chat there, Penny. Thank you for that super chat. And what else we got here very quickly? Grim says... someone's
to reconfigure the forward link. We may lose that for about 1 or so minutes.
Grim, I'm busy doing the stream, so I missed what you're talking about. Nigel's also had a message taken out here, so I'm not sure what the issue is.
So as the main vessel gets closer, it's going to back up.
What I will say from the chat perspective is I did see that Golden Sheep was attacking Ronaldo, and I didn't see if it went the other way, and I just saw him coming back. So he probably got a timeout. So.
It'll be a pretty quick lift up out of the water using that hydraulic lift into the Dragon nest on the deck of the boat, or the ship rather, and then they'll move it underneath the helipad into essentially the crew recovery area where they'll have a platform.
So while we wait, we have probably about 9 minutes before they do the actual extraction, folks. Let me just bring folks up to date. What you're watching is a live stream from the NASA here on Chris White Africa, and what it is the return of the CrewDragon space capsule, which was part of the Falcon 9 NASA SpaceX launch last month, taking astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station. The CrewDragon capsule has come back to Earth, successfully deployed its parachutes, descended and landed in the Gulf of Mexico. We now have recovery crews out there. They've already collected the parachutes safely and going through the final steps to extract Bob and Doug from the capsule. That's what you're watching right now, so thank you for tuning in. If you didn't get a notification, my apologies, but I didn't announce the stream until about 5 minutes before I went live because of a timing snafu. Also, I wanted to ensure that the landing was actually going to take place. Until about 35 minutes before they landed, there was still a possibility that they could return to orbit. But once they passed the point of no return, I decided, look at all those boats out there, folks. Look at all those boats. A big crew of people out there to greet Bob and Doug back to the planet. So that's what you're watching right now, ladies and gentlemen. And so I mentioned that for those who think they just tuned in and missed anything. All you missed was the landing. And thank you if you've been here for this throughout. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us. Stephen Clark says, as human, this gets me all emotional. Lonwabo Mahulo, I'm late, saw the notification late. Yep, not on you, Lonwabo. That's, oh, here we go. There we go. It was because the notifications didn't go out till late. So my apologies for that. But welcome if you've made it in now. Kalpani Sony says, it's thanks to Ronaldo, I got introduced to your chat. Love the content. Well, thank you, Kalpani. I appreciate it. Appreciate loving the content. Marlene Kruger. Okay, no. What else we got here? All right, folks. Going to listen into the conversation a little bit longer here.
And there you can see a couple of the recovery team members on the deck. And also just behind them, we get our first good view of the nest. Yes, so this is essentially the nest in the background there. Dragon will be hoisted using the hydraulic lift out of the water and into that nest. That nest will then be pulled towards the camera from this view, towards those individuals on that upper deck there. And that's where the...
Dragon SpaceX comm check.
Loud and clear, Solo. How us?
Loud and clear as well. And from the video, it looks like the boat is about one length away, about 5 to 10 meters, backing up to you.
Copy that. Thanks for the update.
All right, so good news there. We're getting ready to see Dragon to be lifted out of the water and into the recovery nest. As I was saying, that nest will be pulled towards the camera, towards the upper deck that we saw there, and that's where the medical stretchers will be waiting to assist them into the medical bays for evaluation after capsule egress.
It's already been 25 minutes since they splashed down. It doesn't feel like it.
That was definitely the fastest 25 minutes of the day.
The timeline we were anticipating was for the lifting operations to start within about 30 minutes, so we're pretty much right on the timeline still. That's been a pretty common thing so far today. You can see them with one of the fast boats getting it positioned to start moving out with the additional rigging to affix to the Dragon.
All right, so there they've updated us. In case you're wondering, they'll be lifting the capsule with a crane there onto the vessel there and land in that little nest. You see the pads there on the back of that, I don't know, sled or whatever you want to call it there. It'll be lifted up on there, and then they'll be extracted. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, Sky Greg T says, wow, the capsule looks baked. Well, yeah, I should think so. The temperatures are quite impressive as it descended through the atmosphere. The atmosphere is your friend, and it's also your enemy, depending on where you're at and how fast you're traveling.
The crew that they might feel some momentum as a couple of the rigging lines are attached. There we can actually, there's our first good shot of the individual who is placing that rigging equipment. Again, that's someone that's highly specialized and very well trained for these operations. As I was was saying, the recovery team has rehearsed and practiced this with Bob and Doug themselves, actually, in a test capsule, practicing the egress as well as they have practiced the recovery process many times. And actually, through those practice runs, they have effectively cut the recovery.
So there we go, folks. Almost ready to lift it up. Very close. Getting in a position to bring it up with the hoist and put it on the nest. Should be interesting. Kolasang Litosani asked me if I believe in aliens. I've covered that topic before. I said I do believe that life exists elsewhere, and my first candidates would be Enceladus here in our own solar system, and Titan. Those would be the first two places I expect that we're going to find life on this planet. As you see one of the frogmen guys out there, or support crew climbing on top of the capsule, getting in position to lift it up. And we're very close to this point. Oh, there he goes, jumping back into the sea. That's kind of cool. Yeah, folks, if you're a member of the channel, feel free to use the custom emojis if you like to show your excitement about what's going on here. Really do appreciate it.
In the next 30 seconds, they have the lines affixed, so they're going to start lifting the capsule up out of the water. And at this point, the communication we're getting with Dragon is actually being routed through the boat itself at this point. So there we can see the lift. Dragon is out of the water.
Yeah, so
now
now
that A-frame is going to start swinging it back. And it's bound right for that nest at the bottom of your screen.
There we're getting a better shot of all the points in which Dragon is tethered to the hydraulic lift, ensuring that it isn't swinging freely.
So I do have one point to make here. We may be advanced, maybe the 21st century, but look at this A-frame and a hoist. I mean, this is centuries-old technology to lift the capsule out of the water and put it on the nest. Just imagine that. That didn't take much in the way of science to figure that part out, folks.
Recovery personnel are completing final checks and preparing to translate you to the egress platform.
Be happy. Thank you.
So for the first time in 2 months, NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley are on some sort of ground. I guess we can't call it solid ground because it is a ship. However, it is the first time that they are not in space, on a rocket, or bobbing in the ocean.
Yeah, so now that they're in the nest, they're going to start translating it forward. And Dragon's going to move into essentially the hangar section underneath that helipad and then up to that recovery platform that we saw a little bit earlier. At that point, the spacecraft technicians will work to open up the hatch. As we said previously, it's a manual process with a couple of different attachments you have to engage before the hatch itself can be opened.
Well, here you go, folks. Bob and Doug are about to exit here shortly. We're very close to that taking place. They're in the nest.
Get their initial health assessment, see if they're ready to move, and then we'll start assisting them out of the capsule and into that medical facility on the boat.
So at this point, the recovery team is doing final securing of the capsule in preparation to actually move the recovery nest into closer to the interior of the ship. It'll actually be in a little bit of a covered deck there. We saw that camera view earlier, looking straight out from the center of the boat. So once Dragon is secured in the nest will be translated then forward and closer to the recovery. Closer to.
Nigel makes a comment. He says, what's interesting is that there's very little presence of military. Military are present. They're just back away from this. But yes, the U.S. Navy was the key player in recovering the astronauts during the Apollo program. But now that's being handled by NASA itself. I realize we're 5-6 decades removed from that time frame. And so NASA's picked up the capacity of its own right.
So right now we can see the recovery team releasing those securing lines that were used during the lift of the capsule from the water into the nest. So they are releasing those securing lines from the sides, making sure it is secure from the bottom.
All right, for folks just tuning into the stream now, let me show you what's going on here. This is the return of the Falcon 9 NASA SpaceX mission with the CrewDragon capsule. You're seeing the CrewDragon capsule being dragged onto the ship, the barge, recovery barge, after its successful splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of Mexico. And in just a few moments, we're going to see the hatch door open, and astronauts Bob and Doug McKenzie get a quick look through by medical personnel before they exit the capsule. And this is will be the conclusion of the mission to the International Space Station, the first manned space launch from the United States in nearly a decade, which took place just a couple of months ago, launching astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley into orbit for a mission to the International Space Station. We've just seen the return of the CrewDragon capsule, and people making final preparations here to prepare to open the capsule door and do the initial medical checks on our astronauts before they exit. Apologies on the sound. When I'm not speaking and I turn the sound up, it's NASA where it comes in and out. That's on their feed.
And if you look closely, immediately above the hatch, you can see the area where you can see them working in now. That's where those drogue chutes deployed from. The two circles on either side were where the mortars were. The main parachutes now hidden by the platform underneath the side hatch.
So the crew is in the process of removing the side hatch. We can see that Go Navigator is in transit. It is making its way back to the Pensacola Naval Air Station. However, Bob and Doug will get a ride from the recovery vessel via helicopter.
Kalpane Sony, there shouldn't be any need for decompression chambers as the capsule is pressurized to Earth atmosphere. And here we go, about to open it.
So again, we're preparing to open the side hatch, and once that is done, the flight surgeon will pop his head in, do an initial check, see how Bob and Doug are doing.
And Dragon SpaceX, we got a slight delay due to some potential NTO hits near the side hatch.
Copy, Mike. We're standing by.
And so they're still continuing to do kind of those sniffs, so checking for any vapors or anything. So those NDO.
So as they prepare to open the side hatch, put yourself in Bob and Doug's shoes. They've now been down on the ground for about 40 minutes on the surface, and they're probably getting tired of sitting in that capsule. And like, when do we get out of here?
Make sure that it's the recovery experts before they get this hatch open. But again, moving right along the timeline, it's since they splashed down at 11:48 a.m. Pacific. And so again, they're just pausing the operations for a moment, doing some additional air sampling around the prop system. We still have telemetry being fed from the vehicle, so flight controllers here in Hawthorne able to monitor prop tanks, propulsion tank pressures, and not seeing any issues with those at the moment.
All right, folks, is it just me or anybody else that feels saying right about now? Come on, let's get on with it. Let's get the door open. Come on, get these guys out. How many things you got to check here? Anyway, yeah, the capsule does look kind of odd. Looks like it's got eyes and a mouth on it if you're looking at it there. And yeah, quite a few scorch marks on it from return to the planet. Should be interesting. Anytime now, fellas. Anytime. Let's get with it. Let's get that side hatch open.
Air readings, grab samples essentially, before they proceed with the hatch opening.
And Dragon SpaceX update, we're still investigating. Looks like we'll be setting up a service section purge. We're working on an ETA for you.
Okay.
In case if you're just joining us, NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley have safely returned.
This oak looks like he's cracking a safe open there. Messing with the handle there, trying to figure out what the combination is. Did you guys forget the combination to the capsule? Come on. Look at this. Guys, the combo's not working.
8 a.m. Universal time, and they have been pulled out of the water and hoisted onto the recovery vessel Go Navigator.
His iPad didn't work. He went to get another iPad.
Just completing, they did an initial check and found that there might be some remnant vapors, which we certainly don't want to be around when we have Bob and Doug coming out of the capsule. So the team is working to purge the service section in preparation for crew egress. Just a little commentary on the hatches that we've been talking about. So while Dragon's top hatch is used to connect to the International Space Station, that's the one that's located under the nose cone, which is currently hidden there at the top of the capsule.
The problem apparently was remnant vapors, ladies and gentlemen. There are remnant vapors around the capsule. So apparently NASA and SpaceX have the vapors.
When the capsule is docked to the International Space Station, they will use the forward hatch to exit and enter the capsule. Something to note that once that side hatch is opened, it'll be the first time that Bob and Doug have gotten a breath of fresh air. The first time that they've been able to do so in 2 months since they boarded the Falcon 9 at the start of their mission back on May 30th.
Yeah, with an on-time splashdown, they return with almost exactly 64 days in space on this mission, just a few minutes shy of that. So I know they're looking forward to it. At a minimum, in a little bit more of a stable condition now that they're on the boat, not in the water. But again, our team's just continuing to step through. They're reporting that they're seeing all of the vapor levels.
Yes, Shirley, the capsule's designed so they can be reused. You just have to possibly replace the heat shielding on it, although it's an open question whether this will actually be reused or be put in a museum, since it's the first time it's actually been used. So we'll see. But it can be reused. That's the whole intent behind the program.
And in addition, just so you know, we are not seeing any, leak indications or anything like that. These are pretty small levels, but we still need to do the purge at this time.
Okay, copy. Yeah, you're reading our mind, Mike. We were just wondering if you saw any indications of a leak or some depressurization somewhere, but it sounds like it's just part of the deal.
Yeah, that's a good readback, Doug.
Erica, it does look cooked, but appearances are only skin deep. Just like with Homo sapiens, What you see on the outside is not what you get on the inside. Remove that heat shielding, and the capsule is perfectly fine underneath, most likely.
So we're just continuing to get a view down right at the hatch of the capsule. They are detecting those very small traces of a couple of the hypergalls. The one we've heard specifically mentioned was NDO or NO3 nitrogen or NO2 nitrogen dioxide. They are at very low levels. Obviously not at a very harmful level, as we still have people in close proximity to the capsule. They are going through with the purge. They're not seeing any indications of a leak in the service section of Dragon. That's where pretty much all of those different fuel tanks with the hypergalls are located inside the capsule. And we are just about 44 minutes post splashdown.
So they're worried about nitrogen oxide. My question is, can't you just hose the thing down? Come on, guys. Get with the program here. This isn't rocket science. Yeah, I know it was rocket science to get it into space, but now we're back on Earth. Terra firma. Well, not quite terra firma. You are at sea. But get the hose out, boys. Hose it down. Get rid of that nitrogen oxide and get these fellas out of that capsule. Come on. It's party time. People are waiting to crack that champagne open.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
And I'm going to have to correct myself. So it's NTO, that's the dinitrogen tetraoxide, and that's one of the hypergallic fuels used inside Dragon for powering those Draco thrusters.
Now, was that 36 right, 22 left, 19 right? And I think that's the wrong number.
So again, the SpaceX engineers detecting levels of NTO. It's dinitrogen tetraoxide. It's one of the hypergallic fuels used inside the Dragon spacecraft. Levels higher than they would like, so they're essentially doing a purge to help.
Aha, they misled us. It isn't nitrogen oxide, it's NTO, nitrogen something oxide that powers the thrusters.
Within the next 5 minutes or so. We were still expecting the crew out inside of an hour, so still on the timeline or a few minutes ahead, and we should be seeing Bob and Doug once we see those levels continue to drop around the capsule.
Well, I guess it's a good thing I'm not in Africa, because I'd be running out of airtime waiting for these guys to crack that egg open. Come on, fellas. Come on. Folks want to see Bob and Doug. We're waiting. So, folks, this crew you're seeing here from NASA and SpaceX, these would be the guys that failed to get roles in the Italian job because they couldn't get the safe open. Just to get everybody up to speed, the plan was to be out of the
So right
capsule
now we're
within
getting
1
ready
hour.
to
We're
purge
approaching
the
that
service
now. So we
section.
get their act together. We're about
This is to
12
make
minutes
sure
out
that
from an hour when
the lingering
splashdown, I should
NTO
say.
fumes that the team is detecting get flushed out, essentially. The service section is not the interior cabin where Bob and Doug are. It's actually the part of the capsule that is outside of the place where Bob and Doug are.
Well, while they bore everybody to tears, let me turn the volume from NASA down, folks, and get you up to speed here. What you're watching is a live stream from NASA on Chris Wide Africa. This is the return of astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley from the International Space Station after a couple months up in space on the first manned space launch in almost a decade here from the United States, as they left on the Falcon 9 CrewDragon NASA/SpaceX mission a couple months ago to get to the International Space Station. They've now returned safely to Earth, splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico. This is the capsule itself we're looking at, not some alien. It does look kind of like R2-D2 or one of the Star Wars droids. But what you're seeing is the CrewDragon capsule with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley inside it. And we're waiting for them to exit. There's been some problem with some unusual vapors around the craft. They're supposed to exit within 1 hour, and we're now close to 1 hour. So hopefully they'll be getting out of it shortly. But when the hatch door opens, folks, don't expect them to step out immediately. What will happen is that medical personnel will take a quick once-over, give them a quick look-see, make sure they're okay before they come out. At least that's the plan, unless they deviate from it. And shortly, we should be seeing Bob and Doug coming back on to the Earth. They're on the Earth, but they haven't really breathed our atmosphere yet. So, folks, any moment here, we're just waiting. It appears that they forgot the combination to the capsule, and apparently the door must be jarred or jammed from the inside. I don't know what's going on there. They were checking the vapor levels, but for some reason we're having a little trouble here, it appears. So stay tuned. It should be shortly. You can see the boats zooming around behind this craft, which is coming back to shore. Anyway, folks, if this is the biggest snafu in the mission, then it's still pretty impressive. This public-private venture between NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the United States' Space Exploration and Atmospheric Monitoring Agency, responsible for space exploration and monitoring what happens here on the planet and mapping the Earth's surface and our atmosphere and weather conditions. So NASA and SpaceX, a private corporation founded by Elon Musk, born in South Africa, but an American entrepreneur, the original part of PayPal, and took his fortune from selling PayPal and founded Tesla, and then also SpaceX. Serial entrepreneur Elon Musk and SpaceX. So that's what you're watching right now, folks. And I don't know what these guys are talking about over there, but they're clearly still trying to sort this out. And I'm sure Bob and Doug are like, dude, come on, get on with it. Open the door. Getting a cramp here. Getting a cramp. Combination is 22, 37, 54. This guy's putting a mask on. I guess the vapors are still pretty bad there. Trying to figure out what's going on. What is going on with these guys? Anyway, folks, we're just waiting now for Bob and Doug to exit from the capsule. Let me put NASA's volume back on here.
In order to let
Dragon
Bob and Doug
SpaceX,
egress.
looks like limits are dropping and getting pretty good. We're still continuing with the purge just to be extra sure.
Okay, that sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
All right, so we just heard the call. The limits continuing to drop on that NTO, that nitrogen tetroxide. So they're just going to continue to monitor those. They're doing a purge, essentially flushing the air around the service section where the tanks for those hypergolic fuels are in Dragon. As Kate was talking about, they're not inside the pressure vessel, the section of the Dragon interior where Bob and Doug and their atmosphere exists. They're essentially
so for those of you
outside
in South Africa who are tuning into the live stream here of the NASA recovery of the CrewDragon capsule, this might put you in mind of what happens in schools across South Africa as members of the government seek to sanitize schools for the return of students. I'm sure this is a process they went through, a little bit confusing, trying to figure out what to do, what are the levels, how do we do this? Hey, where's the hand sanitizer? Anybody bring the bleach? Anyway, folks, yeah, the answer to your question, Kalpani, Sony, they'll be fine in the capsule. There's sufficient oxygen in there. They have power in the capsule, and they'll be out soon. The real issue has been the toxic fumes that they're waiting to get dissipated entirely, and hopefully that'll happen shortly here.
We are just about 52 minutes post splashdown. Again, we're just waiting for them to get good readings on the levels of any hypergol vapors still in existence around the capsule, and then they'll be able to step back in to this hatch opening.
I think Nigel asked an apropos question. He says he was wondering why Burt Rattan Composites didn't get the contract as well to build a space vehicle. They have good experience in this field. Well, Boeing also was competing for this, but SpaceX was first to cross the finish line and meet the standards that NASA wanted, and so hence they got the contract. We're now over 50 minutes since splashdown, about 52 minutes, folks, waiting for the levels to go down. And like the rest of you, I'm starting to go, come on, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Yeah, so that's what happened. SpaceX just was the first to win the contract from NASA, but there are subcontractors on these programs, and many subcontractors. I think Boeing was very disappointed that they didn't win.
Bob and Doug will be getting assistance from the recovery teams while exiting Dragon Endeavour. This is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members, as returning to a gravity-rich environment can, be a little jarring, wreak havoc with our vestibular system, which is responsible for maintaining balance and motion. Of course, as you've heard us say multiple times earlier, safety is our #1 priority with this operation. So you will see both Bob and Doug helped out of the capsule and assisted to just the few feet over to the medical quarters aboard the boat.
Yeah, if you've ever watched long-duration crews return on a Soyuz, it's a pretty similar process where they're literally carried out of the capsule and immediately placed down into a waiting chair where they usually get some initial medical checks.
For my South African audience, just for clarity's sake, this was not a broad-based black economic empowerment tender, in case you're curious about that. That's not how the contract was awarded. Just thought I'd share that.
The capsule itself into those medical quarters. And then once they're in there, they'll get some initial checkouts from their flight surgeons who are on location on the boat with them. These are the people that have essentially been responsible for their health and well-being throughout their mission, both beforehand, all of their pre-flight data takes, offering them support in the lead up to launch, and then the entire time while on board the International Space Station. And then they're right here with the front line, with the recovery teams, ready to welcome them home. So it's been just about a minute since we heard that last call to the crew. We should be just about done with the purge. We're going to stand by, and hopefully we'll resume these hatch opening operations in just a moment.
Well, Hendo, I would say that if it had been a BEE project, the capsule would still be bobbing in the sea, and Bob and Doug would really be in deep kimchi at this moment, as they've been left to their own devices and would have had to break their own way out of the capsule if it had been a BEE project. No, Marlena, they've been up in space for just under a couple months there, so they left in the midst of COVID. You can watch the launch here on my channel. I have a previous live stream for the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket taking Bob and Doug into space to reach the International Space Station. Just check my past live streams.
3 parts per million NTO and 6 parts per billion of MMH. And Nil, however, is asking that you destow your Driggers and take a sample inside the cabin.
Yeah, which detector? What number, Mike?
You guys are talking about if it had been BEE contract, what they'd be using now. If it was BEE contract, the capsule would have been little Chinese bicycles. That's how they would have gotten back to Earth.
All right, so we just got the call out of the current readings of both the NTO, the nitrogen tetroxide, and the monomethylhydrazine. Either in the parts per million or the parts per billion, but just as an extra safety precaution, We heard Anil, so Anil Menon, the medical authority from SpaceX, on the boat, asking the crew to take out some air detectors that they have inside with them, just to do some quick sampling inside the cabin itself. So again, we've said it before, we'll continue to say
folks,
it throughout safety, the top priority with this operation. So the teams are going to be very methodical and make sure that everything is in a good setup, a safe environment, not only for the crew themselves, but also for our recovery forces. But for now, Bob and Doug still inside of CrewDragon. We are just 58 minutes post-landing.
SpaceX Dragon with a status.
Go ahead, Doug.
That's the SpaceX Control Center that you're seeing there on the screen now.
NO2 on detector 2, it reads 0.0. And on detector 3, it also reads 0.0 for MMH.
Emery, I don't know how long the recovery time is.
Okay, great news. 0.0 for detectors 2
Hey, folks,
and
smash
3
that like
for
button.
NO2
Come on, how can
and
someone
MMH.
not like this
Thank you
stream?
very much.
Come on. 159 people currently watching, got 102 likes.
That's
Let's
good
push it
job.
up there.
And so Doug Hurley reporting zeros across the board, no traces of either the NTO or the MMH.
All right, no toxic vapors inside the capsule. We're very close now, folks. Safe for them to leave from the inside.
Dragon SpaceX for a status update. Okay, so currently our exposure limits are below limits, but the purge is actually doing a pretty good job. We saw NTO go from 3 parts per million down to 1.5 over the last few minutes.
107
so
likes.
ideally,
All right, folks,
with a lot of caution, we'd go ahead and let the purge run for a little bit longer, but we want to see how you guys are doing. If you're okay with continuing
says,
with
sorry,
the,
too busy
the
watching.
purge
I
versus
get you. I know.
knock it off and get you guys out of there quickly.
It's other than the guys unable to open the capsule.
Yeah, we're fine hanging out, Mike. No problem here.
Okay, thanks for that, Doug. We'll keep working the purge to get us down, and thanks for that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, let's just keep everybody safe. No reason to rush.
Yeah, we concur.
Spacecraft Commander Doug Hurley reporting the crew still doing well in Dragon, so they are good to continue to hang out. Medical authority there on the boat recommending as long as the crew is okay and still doing well inside Dragon, we'll just continue with the purge, trying to get those trace readings of any hypergol vapors all the way down to 0.
All right, they're saying let's keep everybody safe, no reason to rush, but we're now 1 hour and 2 minutes since splashdown, folks, and I think we're all displaying a great deal of patience here with SpaceX. The capsule is clear of all dangerous vapors, but there is a slight residual amount on the outside, so we're still waiting for that to clear. They seem to be in no hurry, but be patient. I predict this will happen shortly, folks, so hang in there.
Bob and Doug are inside the Dragon spacecraft, which they did some quick readings inside the cabin and had zeros across the board. But they're just continuing to let these levels dissipate, bring it down to 0, and then we'll resume hatch operations. We're just a little over an hour now, 1 hour and 2 minutes post-splashdown.
Yeah, good to hear Bob and Doug report that they're good hanging out, meaning they're feeling all right, and they're pretty comfortable staying inside for just a couple more minutes.
Yeah, they were doing their best prior to leaving of playing up their expected seasickness. So good. It is good to hear that they're doing well still inside the Dragon capsule.
All right, folks who are just tuning in to the live stream, thank you for tuning in. This is Chris Wyatt Africa. I'm Chris, coming to you live from central Pennsylvania. What you're watching on the screen is a live feed from NASA. This is a recovery craft dragging the CrewDragon capsule back to safety of shore. Just a little over an hour ago, the CrewDragon capsule carrying astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley back from the International Space Station had a successful splashdown, beautiful deployment of 4 main chutes, slowing it down as it splashed down into the Gulf of Mexico approximately 1 hour and 4 minutes ago. The expectation was that the astronauts would be outside the capsule at the 1 hour, before the 1 hour point. But there's been a little trouble dissipating some dangerous vapors like nitrogen tetroxide and another one which I've never even heard of. And so apparently the levels in the cabin are at 0, and there's a slight amount outside the cab or the capsule. So we're waiting for that to dissipate, and then they'll be taken out of the capsule. Astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, ladies and gentlemen, on the first manned space mission from U.S. soil in nearly a decade since the retirement of the U.S. shuttle program. And now we have the new program, a collaboration between NASA, the National Aeronautics Space Administration, and SpaceX, a private corporation founded by Elon Musk, a South African-born American entrepreneur, famous for PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. So we're just waiting for the dissipation of these toxic vapors on the outside of the capsule. And the capsule looks kind of small there, ladies and gentlemen, but if you get a good close look at it, you'll see that it's probably about the height of 3 to 4 people standing on shoulder to shoulder from bottom to top. It's much larger than it appears. And you can see the scorching from the re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere, but the mission went successful, no hitches. The only small problem we're seeing right now is that we're waiting for these vapors to dissipate, and it should happen any time now. Open the door. Has been a little bit entertaining, but that entertainment is dissipating now. It was kind of fun watching these guys scramble as if they couldn't open up the hatch. Lost the keys, forgot the combo, looking for a spanner or a crowbar. But actually the issue that's taking place is the dissipation of vapors from the outside of the capsule. They're using an abundance of caution. No reason to be concerned, but nonetheless, we are awaiting the exit of astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley from the CrewDragon capsule, which you see there. By the way, to answer questions people had, the capsule is designed to be reusable. Whether this one will be reused or not is an open question, because perhaps it might be a museum piece or be put on the front lawn of SpaceX's corporate headquarters. I don't know. But if you're thinking, well, it can't be used because it's all burned up, looks are deceiving, folks. That's just the external part of it. That heat shield can easily be replaced with a new one, and all the components inside should be working absolutely fine. Astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley waiting their exit from the CrewDragon capsule. I hope that you guys are enjoying this live stream here on Chris Wyatt, and hopefully it'll happen in the next few minutes.
And Dragon SpaceX, things are still trending well. We're expecting another reading in about 2 minutes, so at 1956, and looking to hopefully egress you guys shortly after that.
Okay, sounds good, bud. Thank you.
In light of one of the social media questions that we were asked earlier, someone asked if Bob and Doug have Netflix available on their heads-up displays there in the capsule, and they've actually been pretty busy throughout this mission, monitoring telemetry and data and checking for timing. And I would say now's about the time that they would certainly want something to watch because,
So there you go, folks. They're hoping that it'll all be done in about a minute from now, and then after that they will take them out of the capsule.
Has to be a feeling of just success, though, for those two. I mean, taking the first flight in a brand new spacecraft, we knew as test pilots this is something that was kind of their bread and butter when they were in the military, and definitely something they leapt at the chance for once they became astronauts. And really a pretty flawless flight for Dragon. Obviously, we'll have all of the post-flight review coming up in the next several weeks. as we continue to assess all the data that we received throughout the mission and any data still recorded locally on Dragon itself. And we'll be spending the next several weeks going through and assessing the mission and working through the certification process. And we're already targeting the first operational flight, currently pegged for no earlier than late September.
And Dragon SpaceX are now planning to stop the purge in 1 minute at about 1957.
Copy. Thank you.
All right, well, with them stopping the purge in about a minute, that means that the levels have gone down to what they were looking for, and then we'll begin to step back into the hatch.
So there you go, folks. There's an update. The first operational flight coming up, and the next one in this mission program in September already. That's amazing that far. Hank Klopper asked a question about what the medical conditions that might be an issue for the astronauts: difficulty walking, low breathing, bone density. Yeah, bone density is definitely a problem. Being in space has a major impact on our organs and bone density for humans, and it's not conducive to humans, as well as the gravity issues, which will impact their ability to walk. But that comes back quickly. The loss of bone density is a bigger problem. It takes a while to restore that, and it's especially a severe problem for female astronauts, but it is a problem for all astronauts. Yeah, and Wesley said the capsule's 4 meters by 8 meters. Like I said, 4 people tall, 27 feet high. Yeah, that's 5 people tall, actually. It's a pretty large capsule. It just looks small because of the nesting position it's in right there. Nigel's falling asleep. Hang in there, Nigel. We're close. Hang on there. We're almost there. Be patient a little bit longer.
Okay, good news. Thanks.
That is good news indeed. So confirmation that the purge is complete and that they're just going to do one more test to make sure that all of the fumes of concern are away and that it is safe to open that side hatch and retrieve Bob and Doug. Once again, once that side hatch is open, our flight surgeon will be the first to say hello, get a quick medical checkup, although based on the reports that that the crew have been giving us along the way, it sounds like they're doing great.
All right, we know it's real now because the photographer has approached the door. See the professional photographer on the left-hand side? That means we're close.
And Dragon SpaceX, we show 0.4 parts per million on NTO, 18 parts per billion of MMH. That's below limits. We are proceeding with hatch opening.
Okay, great news. Thanks, Mike.
All right, so there's the green light we've been waiting for. In fact, the green light we've been waiting for months at this point. This is our first opportunity to say hello to Bob and Doug, our favorite space dads, as they are now about to egress or exit from Dragon Crew Endeavour. Again, this is the culmination of what has been about a 19-hour journey home, all starting yesterday as they departed the International Space Station. So this hatch will be manually opened, and once doing so, Flight Surgeon Neil Menon will...
All right, so they've got the green light, folks, and now we'll see if they really are having difficulty opening the hatch. Should be moments away. Do they have a spanner? Have the combo? Looks like they used a spanner there. Here we go. Opening of the hatch, ladies and gentlemen. The door is opening. Here we go. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, the door is open now. Yes.
p.m. Pacific. Hatch is open.
So right now they're going to put a piece of equipment in there that basically smooths out the edges and makes sure that it is a comfortable exit from the Dragon capsule. Just a little piece of structure there to ensure that the hatch will remain open and that any sharp edges around that side hatch are protected.
As they get ready to come out with the flight surgeon dressing him, I think the first word he says is, "Damn it, Jim, I'm not a magician. I'm not a miracle worker. Damn it, Jim."
In the blue suit there, that's one of NASA's flight surgeons for the crew. That's Dr. Stephen Hart. And that hatch open coming at 12:59 p.m. Pacific. That's 1959 Universal Time, or GMT.
Is it just me, or are these guys really talented at making things anticlimactic?
So once again, the SpaceX recovery team is now assisting NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to exit the spacecraft.
So when this live stream began 27 hours ago for the splashdown, we were all anxiously awaiting the arrival of the astronauts back on the ship. Here we are 27 hours later, ladies and gentlemen, still waiting for them to come out. And here's the gurney, waiting for them to bring Bob and Doug out. Patiently, our patience is worn thin a long time ago, but thank you for staying with us for the entire 27 hours.
To then start with the egress.
So there we see a stretcher on deck. This is normal. This is part of the standard recovery procedure. And it is just simply to ensure Bob and Doug remain safe. Like we said, readjusting to gravity can be a little challenging. Dizziness can often occur, especially when you're on a boat.
SpaceX Dragon, Captain.
So this stretcher will just be used to, as standard procedure to make sure that the astronauts make it over to the medical tent as easily and as comfortably as possible.
Yeah, as we discussed, the reintroduction to gravity from microgravity can be a bit jarring, especially on our vestibular system, so the stuff responsible for our balance. And as they are on a ship underway, we just want to make sure we're taking every possible precaution to ensure that their arrival is safe and free from any injury now that they are home.
I think that what's happening is inside the capsule, the flight surgeon is breaking the news to Bob and Doug that their overtime wasn't paid. So when they check their SurePay, their electronic deposit, not to be surprised by the fact that they didn't get a full paycheck this month. And he's sharing the apologies of Elon Musk, as apparently NASA's cut back on the budget, owing to money being spent on the Wuhan coronavirus. And so there's not enough money to cover the cost of this mission. So they've lost out on their overtime. And I think that he's probably giving sedatives so they don't overreact as they come back onto the recovery ship.
As we saw during the ascent portion of this mission, there is enough room inside the capsule for them to do a backflip in microgravity. However, considering there's a couple folks in there right now from the recovery team.
Check.
Got you loud and clear.
Quick comm check there between Dragon and Mission Control
And
here.
Solo from the PLC, I just wanted to thank you guys for bringing us home safe before I disembarked from the ship Endeavour. I'm sure Doug will have some good words for you guys as well. But thank you for doing the most difficult parts and the most important parts of human space flight, getting us into orbit and bringing us home safely. Thank you again for the good ship Endeavour.
Thank you, Bob, for those awesome words. It's absolutely been an honor and a pleasure to work with you from the entire SpaceX team. It's been awesome.
Some initial words from NASA astronaut Bob Behnken. He's in the pilot seat, so you've heard him refer to himself as PLT. We're still standing by for our crew members to begin making their way out of the CrewDragon spacecraft. And Again, they're going to get some assistance just the couple of feet to the medical quarters on board the ship, where they're going to be able to get out of their suits that they've been wearing for all of the final dynamic phases of the separation events, deorbit burn, re-entry, splashing down just a little over an hour ago at 11:48 p.m. or a.m. Pacific time.
Again, the recovery team.
SpaceX Dragon from the commander.
Go for SpaceX.
Here we have our first view of Doug
Mike,
Hurley.
I just would like to sort of reiterate what Bob said and add my thanks to everybody over the last several years that's either worked in Hawthorne, McGregor, or down at Kennedy Space Center. Anybody who's touched Endeavour, you should take a moment to just cherish this day, especially given all the things that have happened this year. We certainly can't thank you enough. Our families can't thank you enough. And, just proud to be a small part of this whole effort to get a company people to and from the space station.
There you go. All right.
They can celebrate with each other.
You see some.
And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Welcome back, Doug. Doug Hurley there, out of the capsule.
Much, Doug, and you're
welcome.
and thank you so much for those kind words. And we all wish you a safe journey home and a happy reunion with your family soon. And we look forward to seeing you in person as well.
Some really nice words there from Bob Behnken.
Mikey.
There on your screen, we saw NASA astronaut Doug Hurley egressing or exiting from the capsule. Might have been hard to see on your screen there, but we got a thumbs up indicating that things are going well. Sorry, excuse me, I mixed up my positions there. Yeah, those words were from Doug, and we have Bob that just came out first.
Yeah, so Bob Behnken, the pilot, the Joint Operations Commander for this mission, out of the capsule now. So he's making his way over to the medical area, and now they're going to work to get Doug Hurley out next.
I think I saw a smile on Bob's face.
He was a thumbs up all the way. As they've been giving us some regular status updates from inside the capsule, they've been feeling really good. And so now we're just standing by for our spacecraft commander, Doug Hurley, to make his way out into the fresh air for the first time in 64 days.
Well, apparently that was Bob Behnken, not Doug Hurley. You can forgive my error. I was just listening to what they announced, but kind of hard to tell who's who with that face shield on. But yeah, Doug Hurley is still in the capsule. Apparently we're waiting for Doug to come out now. Dion, I used these new astronauts. The old days, you just land, they yank you out of the capsule, stand up, you salute and take a call from Nixon. So true. Gosh bless it. Anticlimactic here, making us wait for over an hour to see these guys exit the, and then they get it wrong. They tell us which astronauts out. Actually, Bob Behnken has already exited. He was the pilot, and here comes Doug Hurley. We're looking at it coming out right now, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so they're getting set up, and we should see Spacecraft Commander Doug Hurley making his way out of the capsule. And it looks like we've got him out.
Breitenbach, it's my pleasure. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it.
Got him seated.
Says, come on, Dougie, you can do it. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's out. There is Doug Hurley. Congratulations, Doug. Welcome back. Welcome back to terra firma. Not quite. You're still at sea, but welcome back to planet Earth. Great to have you back. Bob and Doug have returned safely. The capsule has been
got some applause here.
And now they are on their
And as you can see in Mission Control, a standing ovation for a job well done all around.
Yeah, our crew members, Bob and Doug, are now safely back home on Earth. and they're going to get checked out now by the NASA medical team. They're going straight into the medical quarters on board the ship. That'll be their first stop on planet Earth, and then they're going to be making their way up into a helicopter and then heading back to dry land. So once they're complete, the team's going to prepare Dragon itself, and they're going to begin taking it back to shore. But it's been an incredible mission. This all kicked off just 2 months ago on May 30th from Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We had a successful liftoff. We had to dodge around some weather. It was suspenseful, clearing up the last possible moment. They had a flawless ride to orbit, a 19-hour journey to the International Space Station, where they just spent 62 days on board, 64 total days in space. They were Expedition 63 crew members doing science experiments, spacewalks, repairs, everything on board the orbiting laboratory.
Their journey home began yesterday when they closed the hatch to Dragon and undocked hours later at 4:35 p.m. Pacific. After 4 successful departure burns and a
All right, looks like we've got the kink in the feed there, folks. So let me tune that down a little bit.
and prepare Dragon
oh, there it's back.
For its lift onto the recovery vessel. And just a little less than an hour following splashdown, we saw Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley make their way, thumbs up, out of Dragon and into the recovery.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That's the return of astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley back to Earth, landing in the Gulf of Mexico, being recovered by the crew. And I'm going to go ahead and just shrink that down in case anybody wants to drop off. Some people trying to hit the rack. It's a bit late. So there you go. Is that on silent? It should be on silent. There we go. All right, so now it shouldn't be bothering us. I'm still hearing it. What's going on there? All right, anyway, so folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Normally we would be in the middle of the Night Owls edition of Stray Voltage, so we'll stay on here a bit longer and we'll discuss this. I'll take questions. We'll discuss some things if you guys like. I'm going to leave that on the screen just in case something interesting does happen. So let me slide it over here. All right, and we'll just keep that on the side there in case something interesting does pop up, and then we'll bring it back into the conversation if necessary. But anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your patronage. It's exciting to see how many people join the stream. We're over 175, I think it was at one point there. Folks joining in and watching this fascinating historical moment. And it's nice to kind of bookend this after having done the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket with the CrewDragon capsule for the astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station about 6 weeks ago. Remember, the first day was scrubbed because of weather, and then they finally launched. We had a great audience for that. Live stream is on the channel if you'd like to go back and watch that launch. And then today to be able to bookend it with the arrival and the safe splashdown of the CrewDragon capsule built by SpaceX, a private corporation, as part of a public-private venture between a partnership between NASA and SpaceX. Folks, thank you so much for this. Anyway, so I'm really glad that everybody was able to tune in, and I hope you enjoyed this. For me, it was fascinating, and I really enjoyed it myself. Also, for those who missed it earlier, I had a fascinating guest on my special feature live stream earlier today. My guest was Gareth Mason, a huge rugby enthusiast, and who has his own channel devoted to rugby on YouTube, and you should check that out. There's a link to that. If you go to the video, go check out Gareth Mason. Anyway, so thank you all so much for tuning to this. Let's get some of the chat here and see what's going on. Proud Neanderthal says, USA needs to up their game. China's rate of innovation will slingshot past USA at double the pace of Elon. I don't know about that, Proud Neanderthal. China's just getting to Mars, and they've already horked up that mission, so we'll see. We'll see. And if we stop allowing the Chinese to steal our intellectual property, they probably have difficulty keeping up. So it looks like that stream is going to end there. So let me go ahead and close that out then, since looks like they've finished the NASA stream. It's over. Come on, get off there. All right, folks. So there you have it. Let me just close that out really quickly here. All right. So yeah, so I don't know if the Chinese are going to surpass us. We'll see if that happens. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, folks. It's not a guarantee. We got 130 likes on that. Thank you so much. Paulie says anything has been published as to when SpaceX's next mission. Yeah, they were just talking a few moments ago about the end of September should be the next mission. Didn't realize it was that soon. Tun says Filaments was Leka. Chris, thank you. I wish you a happy day. Thank you so much. China needs somebody to do it first, then they just copy and paste it. Thank you, Tian. That's exactly what I was saying. Erica says, thanks for the stream. Loved it. Erica, I'm glad that you're back safely from your journey to Blood River. I hope it was enjoyable. Lynn said it was an awesome stream. Well, thank you, Lynn. Estelle Els, my 5-year-old, is watching with me. Thank you for this. It was my pleasure, Estelle. I hope your 5-year-old enjoyed it, he or she. Really enjoyed it. Gina DW, thank you. Chris, pure pleasure. Well, thank you guys so much. Well done. Proud day for the USA. Indeed, it is. Very much so. Thank you so much. Anna Marie Forster says thank you. Flip, thank you. USA rocks. Well, thank you guys. You're very kind. It's awesome. It's a pleasure to have been able to bring this stream to you guys. I enjoyed it immensely. It's been a wonderful day. I was going to go for exercise, but it sounded like the rain started outside. So it may be lovely in the Gulf of Mexico where the CrewDragon capsule was recovered, bringing back Bob and Doug. But apparently the weather has gone a little sour outside here. But given the fact that we're way short on rainfall in the past several weeks, we could probably use it. So I don't mind. Swear DJs in the Netherlands. In fact, that is the case. CJHSSHJC. Thank you, Chris. Thoroughly enjoyed it. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. And thank you guys for the super chats. Let me go back to that. There were a few super chats here. Ronaldo Host gave a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Ronaldo. Really appreciate it. It was very kind of you to do that. And he was not alone. We also had more super chats in that stream. Let me just make sure we get credit for that. So we give credit where credit is due. I do appreciate it. Thank you all for your patience waiting for this. Seemed like they were never going to be able to crack open that safe. These guys would not be good cash in transit heist robbers. We had let's see who we had. I think we had started with Dietrich, or was it the Flying Boar? Is that the earlier stream? Dietrich was the first with a 140 Rand super chat. Thank you so much for that. Bosch Zebra with a 70 Rand super chat. Ronaldo Hoss with a 140 Rand super chat. And Penny gave a 35 Rand super chat. Thank you all so much for those super chats. Really do appreciate the support for the channel. It is awesome. I don't think anybody joined the channel this stream. Let's double check. We were at 90 members earlier, and we're still at 90 members. So thank you guys so much for that. People dropping off now, that's fine. Sorry to see you go, but if you're able to stay, we'll do a little bit of the night stream if you'd like. Oh my goodness, lots of chat coming in. I can't keep up with the chat. Everybody's saying thanks. Hello, I am Columbia, Cami YT 2004. Okay, cool. Go for that run. Yeah, thank you, Variable Vision. Yeah, in the rain and get electrocuted by lightning. Proud Neanderthal says, search for U.S. Space Air Force interview with Elon Musk when he told them fighter jets are obsolete. No, I haven't seen that Proudly Neanderthal, but that's a good point. Maybe I'll look for that. Anyway, I'll take a check of that out. I don't think that fighter jets are obsolete yet. Autonomous flight is not where it needs to be yet. We'll see what happens. And even with autonomous flight, what humans do is very different. And so we'll see. We'll see if it's done. That day will come, I'm sure, but I don't think we've quite reached that stage yet where humans are unnecessary. Well, folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa. This is normally the night owl edition of Stray Voltage. That's our open stream in which we talk about all sorts of topics, usually news, and cover apropos topics. But thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the new memberships, or new subscribers, no new memberships, but thank you for all that. And the comments especially. Lots of great comments in the chat during the stream. I hope you enjoyed my commentary and narration of the stream. Hopefully it was informative and maybe entertaining as well. But what you were watching was the return of the CrewDragon capsule from the International Space Station with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, who are now safely back on Earth on the recovery ship. They finally exited the capsule, which seemed to take forever. That was quite annoying to see how long it took. But they have exited, and they are back on the ground now. So thank you for tuning in. If anybody's got any questions about news today, feel free to ask that. Also, I'd like to thank everybody very much for two videos in particular of late that I've done. One on Sia Khaleesi, the video Sia Khaleesi and cutting up your Springbok jerseys. Here's a little spoiler alert. I didn't cut up my Springbok jerseys. But I made that video, and that video is over 52,000 views, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. That is the best performing video I've ever had on my channel. Of course, we've only been doing this for a few months, but still, that's very impressive. If I've been doing this for 10 years, I only have 50,000 views. It was my top video. I'd be very impressed with it. So thank you so much for that. Let me just double check. That was over 52,000 last time I looked at it. It is currently at, slowing down a little bit, 52,683 views. So running about 100 views per hour today, although it's dropping down now because it's late in South Africa. So thank you so much for watching that video. I really appreciate it. And then my other video, which was doing very well, and it suddenly ran into a roadblock. But thank you for those who watched it before it suddenly wasn't promoted by YouTube. And that, of course, would be my There Are No Farm Murders in South Africa, in which I quoted President Cyril Ramaphosa. That's a quote of his when he answered Bloomberg News back in New York a couple of years ago. So anyway, he claimed there were no farm murders. But that one's just under 15,000 views, but a lot of subscribers joined the channel, and it suddenly stopped getting promoted. But thank you all for those who've been watching it, and I appreciate it if you spread the word on that one. If you found that video to be interesting, I do appreciate if you spread the word on that. I enjoyed that video and making that video, and also I like the kind of crazy comments that some people gave on it because they're saying things that obviously they didn't watch the video. I love that when people want to diss on videos and they go online and they've never watched the video. You got to love that stuff, folks, don't you? Where are we at? Oh, someone said 65,000. I wish that was 65,000 subscribers, Lynn. I think you mean 6,500. There's a link to that video if you want to check out the farm video talking about rural security and insecurity in South Africa. So feel free to check that out. Yeah, folks, there's the link to that video. And then, yeah, it's 6,400 and something subscribers I think we have on the channel. Let me just update that. 6,476. Wow, thank you guys so much. We're approaching 6,500 for something. We really just started live streaming here in April, late April, so kind of cool. Thank you so much. That's a really May, June, and July is what we've been doing, and the channel has grown by gangbusters. And I like to hope that that's because people like the content and they're enjoying it, and I appreciate your patronage, folks. Yeah, so really haven't talked about the news today. Does anyone want to talk about anything there? Mara Forey says, we always enjoy your chat, Chris. I hope we'll grow more rapidly. I hope so too, but a lot of it has to do with the prepared videos, guys. Most of the people who've come to my channel have come as a consequence of the videos, although some have come as a consequence of my appearances on other channels like Roman, Cabin X Morning Shot, or Renegade Report, or Germ Warfare, or Ronaldo Host Program. Also, Loving Life with Scott Balson. My appearances on there have brought some viewers over, and I'm very grateful for that. But a lot of the viewers come over as a consequence of the videos. And when the videos are not being promoted by the platform provider, then that presents a problem. Like I said, that video on the farm murders, by the way, I get 300 new subscribers from that video alone in the first day. And then suddenly it wasn't promoted anymore. So if you like these videos, feel free to share the content with anybody you know. I do appreciate that. By the way, for those who don't know, the channel is monetized. It was not monetized, but people kept asking me to monetize it. So I did monetize it, and that means there's adverts. So if you don't like the adverts, you can just skip past them. That's fine. But if you watch them, it gets a fraction of a cent. So every time somebody watches it, thank you for that. And also, by popular demand, dozens of people asked me about 6 weeks ago about starting memberships for the channel. I do have memberships on Chris White Africa. So if you'd like to become a member, there is 3 levels of membership. Go to the tab on the channel, which shows you memberships, and you will see 3 levels. There's a recruit team member. I have kind of an army theme because I'm a retired army veteran. Recruit team member, then platoon leader, and then master and commander, which is not an army theme, but a Navy theme. I just thought that'd be a little bit different. Anyway, 3 different levels, and it's very inexpensive. It's not about making money. It's about becoming a member of the community and supporting the community. And so if you're in the U.S., the lowest tier is, or the entry tier is $1.99 a month for membership. And in South Africa, that works out to R9.99. So after taxes and YouTube's cut, that means about 32 cents per month actually come my way. But grateful for the 32 cents, but more grateful if you're able to support and become a member. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to check it out and become a member. What's this? Donna Tango 63 says, what shirt is that? Did you change your shark shirt? Yes. No, it's not a NASA shirt. It is a rugby shirt, though, folks. But there you go. USA. 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 Yeah, USA Rugby. This is a Sevens jersey, folks. And since it's got USA colors, and this was kind of celebrating U.S. space program, that's why I put this jersey on. But thank you for the question, Donna. I forgot that I changed jerseys. Donna's referring to the stream earlier with Gareth Mason, in which I wore a Sharks jersey because Gareth is a big Sharks fan in South Africa, so I wore that. Lars Sola says apparently there is infighting between Ramaphosa gang and the Magashula Mafia. Going to be an interesting weekend ahead. In fact, I mentioned recently to folks that one of the things going on in South Africa, I talked about this situation we had a while back in which Dietrich Bucha has just become a member. Thank you so much for that. Welcome to becoming a member, Dietrich. Appreciate it. There's a salute to you for becoming a member of Chris White Africa. You get a salute. Thank you so much for that. So someone said to me, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about this, schism and feud and factionalism within the ANC. But ladies and gentlemen, it's real. Cyril Ramaphosa's rule is hanging by a thread, and it's been hanging by a thread since the day he took office. Hence the reason he started tacking to populism and talking about expropriation without compensation and calling white South African names because he assumed it would be enough so he could retain control within his party. But his grip is tenuous, and we might see another Polokwane massacre in which the ANC unseats its sitting president of the party, and of course then they resign as president of the republic. That should be coming potentially in South Africa any day with the way things are going. Ramaphosa is not the all-powerful being that people assume that he is. Not at all. So we will see what happens inside the African National Congress. Erica says, I was already watching you before your interview with Scott, but lurking more in the background in case I got into trouble. Well, only a few people get into trouble in the stream, folks. There are a few people who do get into trouble. And shame on you if you come into the stream looking to provoke a fight with someone. I don't know what happened earlier. Someone was attacking Ronaldo. I didn't see all that. And then someone said they were attacking me. I missed that. But what I did see is the person, I saw Ronaldo respond to the person in a measured fashion. The person came back and provoked and said, why don't you get out of here, go back to your channel. And that's unnecessary. I don't care for that kind of nonsense in this channel. I think the moderators must have missed it too. I just deleted that person's messages, was unable to give him a timeout. I think Bradley or somebody eventually gave that person a timeout. That behavior is not welcome in this channel, nor is people trying to Zoom bomb me like happened a couple of days ago. But you're welcome to come on this channel and have discourse, raise legitimate questions. You can disagree with things. Absolutely. Discourse is the elixir of life, and happy to have a cogent conversation with people here. That's what this channel is all about. Dietrich says, thank you, sir, Colonel, for your high-end quality streams. Well, you're most welcome, Dietrich. It's my pleasure. Really, it truly is my pleasure to bring that to folks. I enjoy it. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get into this YouTube thing a few months ago to take it in the direction it's gone, but you guys, Paulie's just gave a super chat there of 14 Rand. Thank you so much for that, Paulie. And he gave U.S. flags, the rocket, and Orange Man Bad, Donald Trump. Thank you so much for that, Paulie. I didn't get into this with the intent of taking it in the direction it's gone, but you know, you have a plan, you expect to do something, and sometimes events change. In this case, the lockdown in the U.S. and South Africa, and my concerns over that, and the welfare of people in both places. And so I decided to take this channel a different direction. And I got to tell you, you guys are making it worthwhile. I'm enjoying it so far. While I have to admit that I'm not too thrilled about the sedentary lifestyle. I mean, I'm still exercising, but what I mean is that the sedentary lifestyle that I can't travel the world, which is something I've been doing for decades. But because of lockdown, X-Roadies has become a member. Look at that. Well, thank you, Lynn. I really appreciate that. At the recruit team member level. So here you go. There's a salute to you. You notice it's a proper salute, not one of those English salutes like this, or not one of those, people all over the place sort of thing. No, a proper, crisp salute. You'll notice the thumb is folded correctly, and the hand is the correct angle. I take great pride in rendering a salute, and that's an honor to do that. Thank you so much for that. And as a colonel, I don't get to salute too many people because I get to return salutes, but everybody's saluting me. So you become a member of the channel, I get to salute you. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, no, take it a different direction because people asked for it, and you guys are making it very enjoyable for me in a time in which I would kind of be losing my own mind because I'm so accustomed to traveling. By now, I would have been place after place after place. And this got even worse because I was supposed to go to Vancouver for the Sevens tournament. I booked my flight. And it's not easy to fly from Pennsylvania to Vancouver. Trust me, folks. Booked my flight. I had booked my hotels. I had my tickets to the Sevens tournament. Great seats, by the way. Because I got them early. And then also I had booked tickets to the Vancouver Canucks for 2 games, including a game against the Colorado Avalanche. And that was before the lockdown went into effect. And I had to cancel my trip. I lost some money, but I got a little bit of it back. Got my miles back for the flight because I paid with miles. I got my points back for the hotel from Hilton, which was very kind of them. But I did lose my ticket prices, and I was able to sell one of my 2 hockey tickets back. But anyway, don't cry for me, Argentina. What I'm saying is that I was so psyched to go to Vancouver because I didn't go to Vegas this year. There were no Vegas Sevens. And I really love Vancouver, so it was going to be fun. I was just up there last year, so I was going to go back and also link up with a person who works on Canada up there that I know. And I had to cancel because I had made a prior commitment to the Army War College in which I was supposed to present for them. But my understanding was they didn't need me till Tuesday. Turns out they needed me on Sunday, so that trip fell by the wayside. So losing that trip and then the lockdown nonsense that's taking place has made it very frustrating for people around the world, but also for me, a person's accustomed to jetting around the world. Not doing that right now. So I'm actually getting a lot of enjoyment out of doing this channel. It's a lot of work, by the way. It's not, you don't just turn on the camera and go, hey, everybody, hi. How about sending some super chats? No, that's not how it works. Yeah, I do research for the topics I write about, the videos that I do. 90% of the videos I do are prepared. I mean, not in that it's a script. I don't do a script for my videos. I just sit down and think about what I'm going to talk about. And if necessary, I do a little research to find data if I don't have it, but I have most of the data most of the time. But also sometimes new events are breaking, so you want to make sure you get names and facts and dates correct. So I check all that stuff. And then I go ahead and do the video and talk about the topic. Then the live streams, I also do research for those, by the way. I don't just turn on the camera and come on the channel and start talking to people. I actually look up news and events from around the world, and I try to find ones that may be of interest to my audience, particularly in Africa, but also outside of Africa. And that's kind of how it works. So yeah, I do, of course, bring my 36 years plus of military service, and having worked in 8 embassies across Africa and all the regions except Central Africa, and I guess technically you could count Uganda as East and Central Africa. I don't, but some people do. But all over the continent of Africa, tours in combat, peacekeeping, HIV, Ebola, tuberculosis programs. I bring all of that, plus my experience working at the Pentagon, the National Security Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, teaching at university, undergraduate, postgraduate university teaching. I bring all that to my analysis. And so I try to put a lot of effort into it. And I hope you guys appreciate and enjoy it. I think you do. The subscriber base, the way it's been growing, seems to be an indication to me that someone's liking it. I suppose, but the funny thing though is I could probably sit around and like do a video with a cat on my lap and talk about my cats. I don't have any cats, but I can talk about my cats and I probably get 500,000 views on it and 10,000 subscribers. You never know. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for. Hendo's put in the link to the ex-Roadie's new channel. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Tian says, media is ANC's voice. He was sent out from the EF by the ANC, used to test. Oh, you're talking about Julius Malema. Lynn says, it's a pleasure. This is an awesome stream. Well, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. Really trying. I enjoyed this, guys. Thanks for tuning in. So this started out as the stream for the return of the astronauts, but it coincided with the time that I'm normally online for the Stray Voltage Night Owls edition. So we'll stay here a little bit longer. And Proudly Neanderthal says, I'm surprised the UN have not offered you a post. Who is your mentor on Africa affairs? Proudly Neanderthal, that's a good question. I've never really had a mentor for Africa. That's all self-interest and self-involved. I've had people who interest me, whom I've liked and I followed their careers, but no one's ever been a mentor for me. I've never had a formal. Now, I have been a mentor, and I have had proteges underneath me, or not underneath me, but who I've assisted, I should say. But I've never really had a mentor for my career. I wanted a mentor, but on occasion, but never really worked out that way. And the reason it never worked out that way is that when I was with combat arms units in the military, I was an intelligence officer, so you're kind of an outsider, and those people go on a different path, so their career path is not the same. I never served in traditional military intelligence units or organizations until much later in my career, in which at that point I was the mentor and not the protege. So I never really had a mentor. And the same in the Foreign Area Officer program, I never really had one. Now, I have provided that viewpoint for many foreign area officers, young foreign area officers who enter the program for the military. But for Africa, I just developed an interest in it on my own and went from there and learned on my own and learned what I can from others and just kind of went. I think it's a good question. Thank you, Proudly Neanderthal. I appreciate that question. Anne-Marie says, what is the deal with a mechanic in the Survive that have the pram? What? I don't understand that question, Anne-Marie. All we need to do is keep distance and wash hands, go back. Oh, you guys are talking about the pandemic now. Yeah. Well, just be smart about what you're doing. And if you're not vulnerable, then you're going to be okay. But if you are vulnerable, be extra special careful about who you're around and what you do. And that'll make a difference. Proud Neanderthal says, I'm surprised you have not offered you a post. You have to apply for those unless you're well known. There aren't many people in the career field that I was in who have the kind of portfolio and CV that I have. Not boasting, just stating as the fact. So it's kind of like a diamond. There aren't a lot of them out there. You just, but you have to be known for it. And I am known in some academic circles and I am known in some business circles, and I have been asked to do a few things, but I've so far not liked the opportunities. I don't have to do anything. So I'll take something that's very appealing to me that suits my needs and meets what I hope to do. So the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is that unless you're Shirley MacLaine or you're a Buddhist, you believe in reincarnation, as far as I know, you get one shot at this lifetime and you want to make the most of it and have the most impact. So the next big thing for me, whatever that may be, I want it to be something where I can see it has an impact, whether it's in business or it's in multilateral institutions or it's in government, something like that. So I want to do something in which I can see a tangible impact. Now, the reason I say that is because much of my career, I've been very blessed and fortunate that I've worked my way into positions or been fortunate enough to get assignments in which I had that kind of impact. Done some really cool things throughout the course of my career. So that's kind of important to me. It's kind of what helps make me tick and keep me going. So what else we got here? Lynn, you guys are talking back and forth here. I don't want to interrupt your conversation there. So let me see if there's any other questions that people have come up with. A lockdown in South Africa is over-exaggerated, promote fear instead of cure. That's what Mara Fori says. Yeah, no, I think the lockdown is a real problem. Dietrich said good night. Dietrich, thank you very much. Appreciate you becoming a member. It's really cool. Almost 100 members, Hendo says. Yeah, I think that Morton wants to be the 100th member, but he was in Mauritius, locked down for a long time. He couldn't get out of Mauritius, and now that he's out of Mauritius, I think that he said something he wanted to become member 100, but He's going to have to pay close attention. I'll try to be fair and let him know what member 100 is going to be, because it's always fluctuating. But right now, I think we're at 91 members. Oh, 92 members, excuse me. Yeah, that's right. Ex-Roadies and Dietrich both just joined. Marauder 8310 joined earlier in the day, so that put us up to 92. So we're 8 members away from 100 members on Chris Wide Africa, folks. So, yeah, if you're still there, Chris, Morton Christie, then you're going to have to pay close attention if you want to be member 100. I'll give you a heads up, but I can't promise you'll be member 100. He said he wanted member 100. So, yeah, what else we got here from the chat and conversation? Let me catch up very quickly. Back on the chat. So, no troll zone. Yeah, we don't need the trolls in here, folks. Let's see. Tian says, without Ramaphosa at the same ANC, they all believe the same crap. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Proud Neanderthal says ANC's trying their best to get Malema to rejoin. Really? I was unaware of that, Proud Neanderthal. How are they doing that? Mara Fori loves the jersey, great colors. Looks great on you. Well, thank you so much, Mara. It's very kind of you. And Hendo put the members video explained. Thank you, Hendo. You know, it's funny when you guys, my monitors put that up there and I'm talking about memberships, it's almost like magic. Most of the time somebody becomes a member. I think a lot of people don't understand what memberships are. So that's cool. What was that? What did came up there? I just saw. Oh, you're talking about a troll. Erica says, how long will it take for Bob and Doug to recover and adjust to gravity? Always wondered. No, it shouldn't take too long. People adjust to gravity pretty quickly, but the bigger issue here is they're going to need to be checked for their heart and their heart health and their bone density, which someone else mentioned earlier. Bone density is a really big problem in space, as you don't use your body the way it's designed, and as a consequence, bone loss happens pretty quickly. It happens quickly for all astronauts, but it's an especially big problem for women, as I'm not mistaken. And so that's a challenge for them. And they're going to probably have to eat a lot of calcium in the coming days. But they weren't in space that long. But nonetheless, there will be some measurable bone loss and bone density will have occurred. And there may be some challenge with the heart. Remember, folks, that in space you're being exposed to radiation all the time. Now, the capsules and the crew or the ships are designed to protect the astronauts to some degree, but you also have to bear in mind, folks, that there is no magnetosphere in space to protect you like we have here on the Earth. The reason we're able to exist on this planet, because the sun, while it's nice that it gets you warm and it brings energy and we get solar power from it, and things grow, trees take in the sunlight and use chlorophyll to turn in energy, that's all fine and dandy, but it's also burning us with ultraviolet radiation, and dangerous radiation comes out of the sun. And if it's not for the magnetosphere protecting and shielding the Earth, the cosmic radiation coming not just from the sun, but also from the background, from out the universe, we would all be dead from cancer and things like that. We would not be able to survive, as would all the plants on the planet. We'd all be gone. The planet would be burned off. We'd look like the surface of Mars, except we'd have no rovers running around because there'd be nobody here to send rovers to check us out. But yeah, so it's critically important with the magnetosphere, but you don't have that in space. They take precautions with the way they line the space station and the things they put in place, but it's not foolproof. And you've seen a lot of astronauts throughout the times we've had space stations up there with Skylab and then with the International Space Station, in which they talk about, their vision being damaged because cosmic radiation shoots through the capsule, gets in their eyes, and affects their vision. It's a very serious problem, and it's something we've yet to perfect and overcome. This isn't Star Trek. It's not Babylon 5. It's not Deep Space Nine. We're still working on figuring that one out. But that is something that needs to be taken a look at. And they're constantly looking at ways to improve that and cut down the harm to astronauts. And that's something we have to figure out, because we'll be sending folks to Mars before you know it, ladies and gentlemen. So keep that in mind. Emery Force says, in the Army, the mechanics' hands are dirty, and when they salute you with a pram in it. Well, you shouldn't be saluting with a pram in it. A pram is like a buggy. Erica says, how long? Oh, you already answered that. Lynn would like to be a moderator. Okay, Lynn. Yep, I know Lynn. So I put Lynn in there. Lynn, you're a moderator now. Latest prefect to join the team. Congratulations, Lynn. What's this? Swearham's talking about military programs in Europe. So Neanderthal must ask a question that I missed here. Let me get back to it. Oh, okay, there we go. Hank Adrian says, do you think there will be more about Doug and Bob? Yeah, we'll be getting news updates. You can check it out. Go to NASA's website or just do a Google search for NASA astronauts. They'll be reporting on this. This is a newsworthy story that'll keep getting attention for the next few days as we go forward. So Proud Neanderthal says, straight up, are there any agencies U.S. that have contingency plans in place prepared if things go south in South Africa? Well, let me answer it this way, Proud Neanderthal. Combatant commands, regional commands like the European Command, the Africa Command, the Indo-Pacific Command, which used to be Pacific Command. These commands all are responsible for any operation the U.S. military could potentially be involved in around the world. So that includes disaster response, humanitarian assistance, non-combat and evacuation operations, combat, peacekeeping. All of these things are the responsibility of these commands. And all of these commands have planning staffs. They have an entire section of senior officers and NCOs who their entire mission in life is to do planning for operations. So when we went to the Gulf War in the early 1990s, we didn't just go. There was actually a plan on the shelf that Central Command had created years before and periodically reviewed and updated. And so they pulled the plan off the shelf and they said, what if the Iraqis invaded? What if the Iraqis did this? And of course, they had one for all kinds of contingencies, but they had one for this contingency. They pulled out, they looked at it and they said, okay, with some minor changes to this and with an increase in the force structure, this plan will work based on how things have happened. So they took that existing plan for General Schwarzkopf, and that was the left hook when the forces, which I was part of, went around most of the formation, and then the Arab forces we sent directly into it, which was a weaker. We didn't send them to their deaths. We sent them to the weaker part of it. We went around and hit from the flank and hit the Republican Guard. And so that plan was an existing plan. When we did non-combat evacuation operations in Kinshasa, well, we didn't do it in Kinshasa. We're planning to do Kinshasa. We had a plan for that already. And we sent some soldiers down to Brazzaville to plan for an operation to take non-combatants out of civilians out of Kinshasa. So we had a plan for that. So is there a plan? I do not know specifically if and what the plan is that the U.S. Africa Command would have for things in South Africa, but I guarantee you there's definitely a plan to evacuate U.S. personnel from our embassies and American citizens from South Africa should the balloon go up and things get really bad. Is there a plan for South Africans or intervention or peacekeeping or cooperation with the United Nations or the African Union? There may be. I don't know. And if there is, those plans are likely classified. But you can be rest assured that virtually anything that happens on this planet, there's a U.S. military plan to deal with it. An earthquake, a tsunami. We had a tsunami in the Indian Ocean. There's a plan for dealing with those things. You don't just have all the ships and the resources suddenly appear there within hours when you don't have a plan. You also have to have global reach, but you have to have a plan. So yeah, there is likely a plan that addresses all sorts of contingencies in South Africa. So I think it's the best I can answer that question proudly, Neanderthal. And let me catch up with the chat here very quickly. Paulie says, excellent audience this evening. Yeah, the audience has been pretty good. People have been well behaved since early on. Tunis Lombard has just subscribed. Thank you for becoming a subscriber. Really appreciate it. Doc Breaker says, open packet, nuke it, snack it. Wesley's out of here. Thank you for the stream. Well, you're welcome, Wesley. Have a good night. Thank you for here. Rian Taliad says, Vak en sin julver hat ni veel data. Oh, you don't have a lot of, you got to, okay, not a lot of data. Sorry about that. Yeah, when you got to pay for data, it sucks. Okay, and what else did I miss here? Okay, Rian's out of here. Plan for the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, I hope they've got one for it. All right, folks, I'll tell you what. Let's see. If you've got some questions, let's bring them. I don't want to keep people here just for the sake of keep people here. It's a Sunday night, but I'm happy to answer questions. We got a good-sized audience right now, and people are asking really good questions. But if you've got questions for me, go ahead and ask them, and I'll address them pretty quickly. Otherwise, I'll close out here before too long. It's my second stream of the day, but I'm okay for staying longer. By the way, folks, if you paid attention to what's going on in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Republic Police and the ZANU-PF Party have upped their degree of repression in Zimbabwe. There was supposed to be a series of protests on the last day of the month, the 31st July and Friday, but the police went out and started arresting and looking for those they suspected of organizing these protests, even though it's lawful. It's permitted in Zimbabwe. It's an expression of free speech. Nonetheless, they printed a list, an enemies list, and circulated it, and a number of activists and human rights workers went underground to hide. They actually went so far as arresting the sister of a prominent journalist from Zim Live, because they couldn't find him. So they just drug her off and locked her up in prison with no charges. And then finally were able to reach him by phone and said, listen, come surrender or she stays in jail. Now, what kind of country is that, ladies and gentlemen? That's repression. That's repression of the highest order. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe, I say this to you. This is your fault. This is your fault. Anyone who voted for ZANU-PF, you are to blame. The chaos, the misery, The economic downfall of Zimbabwe is a result of electing ZANU-PF to office and re-electing ZANU-PF. And yes, I know they stole elections, but they have not stolen all elections. They've actually won elections, and you voted for them. So you got what you voted for. And you need to fix this, Zimbabweans. And I'm talking about the 4 million Zimbabweans living abroad, the 2.5 million in South Africa, and the other 1.5 million living in the UK, in Australia, in the United States, and other places around the world. You need to fix Zimbabwe. You need to fix it. And the world is not going to fix it, and people will continue to suffer in misery while ZANU-PF continues to treat the country as its personal piggy bank and steal everything it can while repressing any dissent. And ladies and gentlemen, for certain types of treason, the number of people arrested under Emerson Mnangagwa's government in less than 3 years now exceeds 37 years of Robert Mugabe's government for the number of people arrested for treason. Shocking, is it not? The degree of repression taking place in Zimbabwe is off the charts, and it's getting no global attention. Meanwhile, willing accomplices in the media like the New York Times continue to propagandize by claiming that Zimbabwe is harmed by international sanctions, which is the biggest load of cock I've ever heard. It is a hashtag sack of cock statement to say that international sanctions are harming Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF is harming Zimbabwe. The restrictions on approximately 168 individuals and a handful of state-owned enterprises is not the reason Zimbabwe is in desperate straits. The capricious governorship rule of ZANU-PF is the reason why that country is in such dire straits and why the situation is what it is today. For a couple of decades, people were able to get away with blaming it on white Zimbabweans, which is utter nonsense. Anyone that was truly a devout and committed racist who was white left Zimbabwe by and large in 1980 rather than live under majority rule and relocated elsewhere, many of whom went to South Africa. Now, do not infer incorrectly. I'm not implying that all Rhodesians were racist. In fact, very few of them were. But those that were left. And the white Zimbabweans who remained behind were committed to Zimbabwe. And the betrayal of Robert Mugabe against the white population of Zimbabwe is epic, and it's well known. But its betrayal affected all Zimbabweans, not simply white Zimbabweans. And we see it today. We see the abject poverty. We see people allocated farmland that was stolen from someone else who purchased it after 1980 with the government's approval, then given farmland. And on that farmland, they're given a piece of plot of land that has no access to the water, either to the irrigation pipes or to the water source nearby, a creek or a lake, and put in a place where there's no access to a road. So how are you supposed to water and tend to your crops on a small plot that has no access to roads and no access to water with no farm implements? Utter chaos, utter disaster. And of course, this happens because of the arrogance of ZANU-PF and of course their misuse of the term racist because they misapplied it. But people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Not everybody, but enough of the world bought the nonsense. And this is what's happening in Zimbabwe. And we can look a little further south now to see things unfolding in South Africa and start to wonder about what's happening there. Proud Neanderthal, is this channel a U.S. intelligence asset? Would you admit it? No, it's not an intelligence asset. Do you honestly think that the U.S. intelligence community would use YouTube? And if it was an intelligence asset, do you think they couldn't cook the numbers so that I had like 650,000 subscribers? Proud Neanderthal. I am a retired military member. As I've shown on this channel before, I'm not going to do it today. I've shown my retired military ID card, vice my active duty ID card, which I no longer possess. It's not an intelligence. That's a good one, Proud Neanderthal. I like that question. It's kind of funny. I wish it was because I'd be getting a lot of compensation, which I'm not getting. I took a pay cut by retiring. My take-home pay is significantly lower than what it was in active duty, and I wasn't ready to retire, but that was the maximum time I could serve, and I served it. And yeah, I'd love to get more money, but if it's an Intel asset, then they're failing in paying their asset off because I've received nothing from them. Yeah, so that's a good question. I like that one. Things are pretty volatile. We have ISIS with new ambitions, ANC infighting, idea of secession, leading friction. I would have thought U.S. Intel would have you on the retainer. Yeah, it's a good point. No, that's not how it works, probably, Neanderthal. You think, but that's not really how it works. What's happening in Zimbabwe? Coming to South Africa soon, says Erica. Let's hope not. Eben Etzebeth cleared of all charges. Was that a nationwide news story? Did we see breathless reporting by SABC that the charges against Eben Etzebeth were total cock? They were trumped up. They were BS. They were nonsense by race merchants attempting to destroy the image of the Springboks before they went on to win the World Cup. Do we see? Is that the reporting? I will research that tonight after my stream, and we'll see what coverage was done as Eben Etzebeth is cleared. Of course, he's cleared. He didn't do anything. The people who attacked him should be now charged. The Institute for Racial Relations ought to be taking a look at this. The South African Human Rights Commission, which is not concerned about human rights, but they went out of their way to drop everything else to go after this case, ought to now be going after the people who maliciously attacked Eben Etzebeth. Will that happen? Don't hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen. The race merchants are always out there, but they never called to book for their actions. Anna Marie Forster says, what's the difference in tradition between the outward palm and the palm down salute? Well, the whole purpose of a salute initially was to show that you're not armed. This is an ancient tradition in which warriors would approach each other and you would salute to show that you're not armed. And it was the right hand because most people are right-handed, so you would salute. So the open-faced palm like this was to show that you're carrying no weapons, because you carry a dagger. If you turn it this way, you could hide a dagger behind your hand. So you do the open face. How it came to this way, I do not know the origins or tradition of that. I just know that the British still do this mostly open thing, and in the U.S. military, we do this salute here, which to me looks a lot more professional, but I understand and appreciate the origins of the hand salute. It was really about showing that you're not a threat. That's what it was all about, to de-escalate things. Because you have people come out for a parlay, discuss things in the midst of a battle. In order to show that you're not a threat to the other person, you would salute. And then over time became something you did to recognize someone senior, to recognize the office or position. You would salute them to show your respect, and that's what it was. So that's kind of the origin history of the salute, but I don't know why it changed. But I do like it because I prefer to salute like this rather than like that. Carl Dunn says, this is my favorite channel. Just wanted to say thank you. Well, thank you, Carl Dunn. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sharon says, no question. Scott from Loving Life just posted a short video, very, very interesting video. He can't verify the info, but if it's true, tomorrow will be a very interesting day. All right, now you've got me curious. I'll have to check that out later on. X-Rody says, I have to report that the payout to ex-commercial farmers is happening. Okay, X-Rodies, are you talking about the payout in Zimbabwe, the $3.5 billion? Okay. Where's the money coming from? Who is it being taken from? Zimbabwe is bankrupt. It has no money. Issuing bonds doesn't happen overnight, and no international organization or state has come forward to offer money. So if you're saying, I assume from that what you're saying is someone has actually gotten a payout. I would find that hard to believe. There have been payouts since 2019, small amounts. One farmer who was owed $2 million for the value of his property was given $20,000 US. We'll see. Dr. Reese says, on a personal level, would you like to hear how you define your... on a personal level, would like to hear how you define your patriotic pride with latest experience. The last time I felt something like that was Rugby World Cup 1995. Yeah, no, it's really important to me. And I have to tell you that in the midst of this fictional narrative that's going on and the armed insurrection taking place in the United States, showing your patriotism can be dangerous. People being attacked in the streets for being patriotic in this country, that's just astounding that it happens, but it does happen. But no, I'm proudly American. This is the greatest country in the history of mankind. Yeah, that's right. That's a biased view, but that's my view. You can disagree with it. That's your prerogative. But this country was founded on tremendous ideals. Yes, I know we had slavery at the beginning. So what? The rest of the world had slavery when this country was founded. It's not exactly a new institution. We were among the first countries in the world to ban it. We also put high ideals in our Constitution, which we were unable to achieve initially, but eventually achieved that all men are created equal. That's right. We did eventually achieve that. I'm very proud of this country, amazing history. Does that mean everything's been hunky-dory and we've never made mistakes? Of course not. Homo sapiens, that's the nature of Homo sapiens. They make mistakes. People get mistreated. Look, this country put Japanese Americans in concentration camps in the Second World War because of the racist, leftist, progressive administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who put Japanese Americans based on their appearance, their physical appearance. You want to talk about racism, ladies and gentlemen? Democratic Party, look no further than that. Democratic Party under Andrew Jackson, the first Democrat in the White House, stole the land from the Cherokees, the Seminoles, and dozens of other tribes in the eastern United States and forced them on the Trail of Tears to march to the Oklahoma Territory, to land that was promised to them into perpetuity, which was only later taken in large part from them with the Oklahoma Rush when the Sooners moved out there, turning the land over to European and white American settlement. But the original racist, Andrew Jackson, who forced marched people off their land, civilized nations who had amicable relations with Americans around them at that time. Their land was stolen from them, and they were relocated out to the Oklahoma Territory, in which thousands of women and children and men died on this forced march. So there you go. There's Andrew Jackson. And then you can look at the Democratic Party in the post-Civil War era in their effort to reinstitute racism and to create the Ku Klux Klan and to do lynchings. It was primarily Democrats who led that effort and who rolled back all the gains from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment and the gains in Reconstruction era South, when the U.S. Army was kept in the South to ensure that rights were extended to Black Americans who were now citizens and no longer could be considered slaves or property. When the Union Army was pulled back, the Democrats took control of the South, and their racist decisions led to people being denied their rights. Yeah, that's right. Then we can look at the racist President Woodrow Wilson, the man who segregated the federal civil service. Prior to Woodrow Wilson, the civil service was integrated. Black Americans, white Americans worked side by side in the civil service for the federal government. But the racist Woodrow Wilson, the person who's responsible for premiering the first ever motion picture in the White House, which was Birth of a Nation, which was a film glorifying the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, that's right. This was Woodrow Wilson. That's Democrat. And then in the 1930s and 40s, we have King Franklin Delano Roosevelt himself, who's responsible for the implementation of the New Deal, a program that denied lots of people opportunity and extended the Great Depression by a number of years unnecessarily because of these policies. And this, he also created the social state and Social Security, which denied mostly Black Americans from having Social Security because they were not included in it. That's correct, ladies and gentlemen. That's often overlooked, because domestic workers were not considered part of that, and a large percentage of the Black workforce was domestic at the time, so they discriminated against them in that way. And then in addition to that, King Franklin and his racist administration arrested and detained over 100,000 Japanese Americans, some of them third-generation Americans in this country, deprived them of their civil liberties. Most of them were forced to sell their property at a song or abandon it and never recovered it, and put into internment areas in the western United States. There you go. There's the history of the Democratic Party in this country, ladies and gentlemen. And their candidate today is Joe Biden for the Democratic Party, a man who, by the way, was in favor of the criminal justice reform that took place in the 1990s, which led to massive arrest of young Black men, incarceration of them, and long-term prison sentences for drug offenses. Yeah, Joe Biden, thank you so much for that. A person loved by the Black community, by and large, in this country. I have no idea why, because he's done very little to help Black Americans. So there you go, folks. A little bit of update on that. So I'm very proud to be an American, but I can never be a Democrat. We've overcome many of the challenges in this country. Let me catch up on the chat here really quickly. Probably Anatol says, it's not as far-fetched. You think, the U.S. now employs tons of hackers. One strategy would be to use two to identify radical right, left-wing persons. Proudly Anatol, no, YouTube does that. The government doesn't need to do these things. The tech titans do this. Twitter does it. Deplatforming people all the time. YouTube does it as well. I mean, look at my video. Okay, folks, I did the video on the farm murders, and within 8 hours, it had 8,000 views. Within 24 hours, it was at 12,000 views in one day. And then it stopped being shown as a video. You know, when you watch a video and then you don't have autoplay on YouTube and suddenly your screen fills up with all these little clicks of other videos that are like that, you might be interested. Mine stopped appearing on people's channels just like that. Why? Because somebody at YouTube or an algorithm didn't like the fact that I talked about farm murders. But I wasn't talking about farm murders. I was quoting South Africa's president. I was talking about rural insecurity in South Africa. So suddenly my video went from having 1,200 views per hour, which is astonishing for someone with this number of subscribers, to having 25 views per hour. Now, and I'm not talking about because people are asleep. I'm looking at the same time on the next day. Yeah. So we don't need the government doing this. We have private industry doing it to people. Absolutely shameful. Curbing free speech. But yes, the government does look for hate speech. The government does look for terrorist groups. The government does look for insurrectionists. That's absolutely the responsibility of the federal government. Of course, they're looking for that sort of thing. But you don't need to hire hackers to do it. You don't need hackers for that. We have computers for that. Computers can find all these things. In fact, I am saying that, what's happening in my video has probably nothing to do with a human being. It probably has everything to do with an algorithm that was created to look for certain types of content and then stop it. Yeah. But you know what? That's to YouTube's detriment, because they get 45% of ad revenue. So when people watch an ad on my channel and they watch that video, which was a long video, so it probably played 3 ads during the course of it, they're losing 45% of the revenue. And I'm not doing it for the revenue. That's not why I created this channel. So, to YouTube, that's on you. That's your mistake. Proudly Anthony says, which way you're inclined to vote, Trump or Biden? I vote Trump. I already voted for the first time since 1988. I voted in a presidential primary. I didn't vote from 1988 until 2019 in primaries because I was a registered voter in Ohio and I voted absentee. I had to request those ballots all the time. But in Ohio, you cannot vote in a primary, which is a party's election that occurs early in the year, unless you're in a political party. I was not a registered party member for Republicans, Democrats, or any other party. And I did that intentionally because as a commissioned officer, I didn't want to be part of a political party. I was allowed, but I chose not to do it because it just seemed to me to be a little bit unseemly. It's perfectly okay, but I just didn't want to do that because leaders in positions in uniform have influence, and I didn't want people to go, well, party in. Oh, you're a Democrat. Oh, you're a Republican. No. I'm an independent. I vote my conscience. And so I was not able to vote in primaries for 30 years. Well, this year, for the first time since 1988, I was able to vote in a presidential primary. And I voted in May, a month late because of COVID-19. It was delayed. I voted for Donald Trump proudly, without reservation, in May for him as president. And he won the Republican primary by a wide margin here, 95% or something like that, 97%. And I will vote for Donald Trump in November. And I pray that vote theft and vote fraud is not allowed to perpetuate. But I fear that it will take place in New Jersey, New York, and California. But in those three states, it won't matter much other than inflating the totals of fictional voters who vote for the opposite party, because Trump is not going to win any of those three states just because of the nature of the states. So hopefully it won't happen elsewhere, because Donald Trump should easily win this reelection. He has a cardboard cutout of the candidate he's facing, so it shouldn't be a challenge. But the media is working assiduously to undermine Trump on a daily basis. Erica, I've been away too long. Chris didn't know that the video has been hijacked. Oh, yeah. I was hijacked. Zoom was right when you were off on the road there. Erica, yeah, my video was hijacked. Yep. Proud Anthony, if you want to keep Trump, what's the plan to make sure he makes it, and will it work? I'm not sure what the plan is. It's not on me. It's up to Trump and his reelection campaign and the Republican Party. So I don't know what their plan is, but let's see what else. I don't know what their strategy is, but hopefully they have a sound strategy so that they keep Donald Trump in office, because I fear for us. Look, the guy's not perfect. I got lots of issues with Donald Trump. Where's my wall? Why is the deficit $1 trillion? Why aren't you cutting spending? And stop listening to people saying it's non-discretionary. The only non-discretionary part of our budget that must be paid is the federal debt. The only thing in the Constitution the federal government is responsible for paying is the debt. We must pay our federal debt. We don't have to pay for Social Security. We don't have to pay for the military. We have to pay for a Navy. That's in the Constitution. We don't have to pay for, the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Department of Education. That's all fictional nonsense that's been created by people growing and growing and growing the size of the government. The only thing our Constitution dictates we must pay for is the debt, and we must pay our debt and not renege on it. That is a fact. So all this non-discretionary is all nonsense. Those are laws that have been created, and those laws are in conflict with the Constitution and can easily be changed or rescinded simply by a vote and a signature from the president. That's all it takes. So I don't want to hear this nonsense. I'm tired of hearing it my entire adult life, watching my country sink deeper and deeper into debt after one president after another puts us further in debt, because they're all cowards. They're all cowards. And I'll have to say the same thing about Trump, although I won't say he's a coward. I will say that he's been distracted from the debt because of the unnecessary distractions taking place by people trying to undermine his presidency with fake Russia collusion narratives, fake Ukraine obstruction narratives, all this other nonsense taking place here. The illegal surveillance of the president, misusing the intelligence service to surveil candidate Trump, then President Trump and his advisors. The utter nonsense that's taking place, the media, their lies, their distortions, their half-truths, their misreporting, all of this is undermined the efforts of the president to execute this presidency. So I will give him a pass on the debt for now. If he's reelected, though, it's time for him to cut his teeth into the budget and stop this nonsense. And this continual, let's give more billions or trillions of dollars to stave off COVID-19. No, the officials in this country need to recognize that COVID-19 is a virus. It's here. It's not going away. We have to find a way to live with it. And that is not wearing masks into perpetuity. And is not banning sporting events and large gatherings into perpetuity. You must learn to live with this and get a grip on it. And you do that by protecting the most vulnerable, those with underlying conditions, immunocompromised systems. You find a way to protect those people so they're not exposed to it. And if they are exposed to it, they're protected so that they're treated well. And that's how you do it. You don't hide from it. We don't lock up the world because of tuberculosis. Despite how deadly and highly infectious tuberculosis is, we do not do that, ladies and gentlemen. We find means to isolate the infected and protect the vulnerable. And it works. As a consequence, tuberculosis is only endemic in certain places, and it only affects a certain percentage of the population, and we keep it under control. We can do the same thing with COVID-19 if only we had genuine leaders in this country and around the world. But we don't. We We have a bunch of preening, self-important, bloviating officials at all levels around the world in government who think they know better than the rest of us, who are science deniers, who dismiss studies like the French study about a certain drug cocktail that works and has efficacy against this virus, and it's dismissed because Donald Trump had the temerity to mention it. If Donald Trump had never mentioned it, I guarantee you that around the world right now, that would be the standard for anyone to test positive for this virus. They would be put on this unless they had an underlying condition that prevented you from taking the medication. That's what would be happening if not for Donald Trump mentioning it. Because Donald Trump mentioned it, it consigned it to chaos and nonsense, and the left denies science. So there you go, folks. All right, let me see what else we got in the chat here. Catch up a little quick. Why just the Navy? Tian, because the Constitution requires that we have a Navy. And that's because, I'll explain why that is. Okay, the founders recognized that you had to have a Navy to protect your shores against piracy and protect your merchant marine against people. Because what was happening is that the British had been impressing people in military service. They grabbed sailors off ships, and they were aware of this. And so they wanted to prevent that. You need a Navy to protect your merchant marine. So they recognized the need for a standing Navy. So they created a standing Navy, but no need for a standing army because the founders were leery of standing armies. Why? Because what happened with the British Army? Well, the British Army would take over people's homes and quarter their soldiers and kick you out of your home. And in fact, that's one of the things in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, to protect you against the unlawful quartering of soldiers in your home, which seems archaic today, but it was the order of the day back then. Armies didn't have barracks whenever they marched from place to place, and they didn't take kit and tents most places. And they also needed to live in proper facilities. So they would kick people out of their homes and take over their homes and loot their homes. And so that was one of the protections of the Constitution. So the original founders of this country recognized that we didn't need a standing army in their view, but we did need a standing Navy. That's why the Navy's in the Constitution. It requires us to have a Navy. Now, the Army predates the Navy because the Army was created before the U.S. Navy was in 1775. So we're the oldest military service. But the Navy is the only one required under the Constitution. So everything after that comes because we pass laws that allow us. So, in fact, the size of the military is governed by law, and it is set by Congress, and the President signs it. So the military size goes up and down based on the conditions. Up until the First World War, we never really had much of a standing army. It was never more than, say, 16,000 max for a country this size, which was abysmally low. And we paid prices for that repeatedly when we had unprepared troops who either came from militias or came from joining a new military or were activated retirees. And we suffered endlessly for not having a prepared standing military. So we learned our lesson. And after World War I, we went back to a small military, but we still had a reasonably large military. And only after World War II did we keep the large military we've had since then as a consequence of the Cold War and then events after that. So, yep. So I think that answers that question pretty well. And we're coming up in 3 hours, folks, and I'm going to call it at 3 hours just to give you a heads up now. So if you got a question you want to get in here real quick, please ask it. Let me catch up with anything I missed here. I think Hendo says, I did send you an email today about that drug and the doctors involved in it and their new radio station interview yesterday. Thank you, Tian. I did see that. I haven't had a chance to watch it. Tian says, how would you fix Zimbabwe? Wow, that would be difficult, Tian. That's a good question. Well, as time has passed, it's become increasingly more difficult to fix Zimbabwe because not only do you have the stalwarts from the liberation era who are still there, not quite dying off, although they're mostly old at this stage. You have a generation who grew up oppressing ZAPU and destroying ZAPU and then merging it. And then another generation who grew up learning that the way you make it in life is you steal from the people and you steal from the country. And so it's going to take a long time to unscrew that generation. So I'd have to have basically the equivalent of a denazification program for Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF would have to be denazified. Now, are there legitimate members of the ZANU-PF? Yeah, there were legitimate Nazis too. So we can, and I'm not comparing the two together, I'm just comparing the process. We would have to have a denazification program for anyone that was involved with ZANU-PF. That would be a start. The next thing is that all racist legislation will be rescinded overnight. The next thing is that any Zimbabwean who's been forced to live abroad would have a right to return, whether they're black, white, Shona, Ndebele, Cesaru, whatever they are, they could come back, and we would guarantee that. Next, we would have to go back and try to fix the courts, which have been destroyed and stacked with compliant judges who would make judgments in the face of against reason and against the Constitution. So we'd have to fix the judiciary. And the security services would have to be high on that. There would be mass retirement or removal of virtually every leader in the ZDF and the Zimbabwe Republic Police. and we'd have to go from there. I would get international institutions to come in to train the police force in actual policing and not repression. So they actually did genuine policing, and we would focus on that. Those are all things we have to start with. When it comes to farm reform, the farming sector is a disaster, and I have to take a long look at the farming sector and look at how we fix that. But there would be a process that would make it possible to compensate those who've been defrauded of their land to be compensated for their land. But that's a highly political process, and I wouldn't get very far if that was the first thing I focused on. So it would not be the first thing, but it would be long-term something we do. And then I would also start a Truth and Reconciliation Commission for Zimbabwe. It's time for the people who massacred people in Matabeleland to be brought to account for their actions in the early 1980s, in the mid-1980s. Damn Skippy. So a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, I say Truth and Reconciliation Commission because vengeance will accomplish nothing, and some people want vengeance. So accomplishing vengeance is not going to get you anywhere. So Truth and Reconciliation Commission may be a good approach to dealing with that open wound that needs to be dealt with. And then also the shame that's occurred since the 2000 farm invasion started and the thousands of Zimbabweans who've been murdered by the security services, thugs, and ZANU-PF apparatchiks. Whether they're MDC supporters, MDC candidates, or commercial farmers or their workers. And that's how you start to fix Zimbabwe. Short of that, all this stuff festers underneath, and you have to have the rule of law in a country. Zimbabwe doesn't have the rule of law. They have the rule of ZANU-PF, and that's not the rule of law. So there you go. So that's how you're going to fix things. I think that's a bit of broad brush, but those are the strategic highlights that what you need to do to fix things. Kalpani Sony says, are we spiraling down the Zim route? I don't know that you are, but there's a lot of problems in South Africa, and they're not getting better by the day. Lynn agrees with me. Thank you, Lynn. Okay. And what did I miss? Marafori dropped a message. Yeah, I think that's it. A farm that grows a species of ducks or water birds, I believe. Interesting. Self-enriching leaders. Yeah, that's the world over, folks. That's one of the problems we have there. All right, so Elon Musk is the richest African American. Well, that's actually a true statement, Yao Yao. Actually a true statement. All right, folks, coming up on about 4 minutes left here before we end the chat. Thank you all so much for being part of this. I was fascinated, had a really good time. I hope you enjoyed it. Those who were with me from the outset when I did this short notice live stream so that we could take a look at what was happening in with the landing and the splashdown of the SpaceX NASA CrewDragon. That was really awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. I really appreciate it. Let's see, we've had 1,168 people tune in to view this during the course of this. Thank you so much for that. Currently, I have 110 viewers. We've got 145 likes. I think people stopped liking it when the stream went off. I turned off the camera from NASA. We were getting all those likes before then. So if you're on the channel now and have stuck with me for this other hour or so and you've enjoyed this, please smash the like button, folks. If you're not a subscriber, you're just tuning in for the first time, hey, why not become a subscriber? The cost is ideal. It costs you zero. Absolutely nothing to become a subscriber to Chris Wine Africa. Just like any other YouTube channel, you just smash the subscription button. Be sure to toggle the bell icon because you need the bell icon to make sure you get updated when there's new videos and live streams. So please do that. Tomorrow, folks, I don't have any special guests. I'll just be doing my regular night owl edition. I don't know if I'll do the noontime edition because I may do it, but I have a stream on Joe Emilio's channel. I'll be talking tomorrow about the truth about land in South Africa. I'm not sure what Joe's called that. I'll have to go check it out, but check out Joe Emilio's channel. If you're not familiar with Joe, he's a South African / American / Egyptian / Mexican. No, he's actually a South African American or American South African who is a comedian based in the Western Cape in Cape Town. And he's got his own YouTube channel on Joe Emilio. You should check it out. And tomorrow I'll be on there as a guest on his program. Earlier today, I had Gareth Mason on my program, a rugby enthusiast and sports commentator from South Africa. That was brilliant. Yesterday on the channel, I had Paratus Gideon, who is a commercial aviation pilot, commercial airline pilot, flies 737-800s, but currently isn't flying because of the lockdown. He's also a gun enthusiast and gun rights advocate and works in a gun shop. And so he was on yesterday. That was fantastic. The day before, my guest was Jeremy Nell from Germ Warfare, and we talked about a lot of different issues. That was a brilliant stream as well. Thanks to Jeremy Nell, to Germ Warfare for being on the channel. That was awesome. Hendo, thank you for that link to Joe Emilio's channel. I really appreciate that. Penny says, enjoyed your evening, afternoon, Chris. Thank you again. See you soon. Proud Neanderthal. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. And early in the week, we had some other good guests. I'm negotiating for some more guests coming up this week, but nothing to announce. Oh, actually, I do have one to announce. We'll be talking about survivalist techniques and things to do, prepper or sort of prepper stuff. That'll be on Wednesday, folks. So check that out. It'll be on the channel. I'll put up a banner sometime shortly, and you'll see that stream on Wednesday. If you're interested in what you need to do to prepare for survivalists, what do you need to do to prepare for emergencies and crises, what happens, what do you set aside, what precautions do you need to take, how do you do certain things, all useful information. And we'll be covering that here on Wednesday on the channel with my special guest, and check in for that soon. That should be interesting. And what's that? Dogbreaker says, oh, you're talking to SwearMG. Mara Forey says, fantastic opportunity to watch your chat. Good night, everybody. Please stay safe. Yep. Oh, there you go. There's the gun rights from Paratus yesterday. And check out Paratus' channel. It's pretty cool. I put that in the link to the video. So if you want to go check out Paratus, you can do it. Yep, absolutely. Well, folks, there we are. We're nearly at the end, almost 3 hours. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the super chats, the new members who joined, the cogent comments, and the conversation we had here. Really enjoyed it. I'm really tired now after 3 hours, and I had a stream earlier for 2 hours. That's 5 hours of streaming today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. God bless. I may take a look at this video and shorten it up so there's a shorter version so you just get the splashdown and cover that, but I'll take a look at that. Anyway, folks, thank you so much. I love it that you guys are following the channel. Really appreciate it. We will see you guys tomorrow here on Chris Wine Africa, and also catch me on Joe Emilio tomorrow, because I will be on Joe Emilio for that discussion about the truth about land in South Africa. So tune in for that, folks. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Really appreciate your patronage.